Okay.
Richard Murphy Damijo. He lost his mother before she turned 60. He lost his father before he turned 60. He was afraid that he would not live to be 60. So the feelings was there. But guess what? He had actions and habits of health. So he was living a healthy life in terms of his diet, in terms of his exercise and workouts, in terms of his social interactions, healthy lifestyle, because his habits were life habits. Even though his feelings may have been death feelings, the habits eventually prevailed over the feelings. And today, he's over 60, still kicking, still doing well and all that. There's a law of hierarchy, but superior to the law of hierarchy is what we call the law of intensity. You talk about somebody who is afraid of dying or afraid of something bad. He has a premonition, but he doesn't have the habits or doesn't have the same actions. That's where the law of intensity may come in. Because in the law of intensity, a baby lion cannot kill a mature elephant. Even though lions are kings of the jungle, even though a habit is superior to a feeling or a thought, if a thought is very stubborn, you can't counter a stubborn thought with a gentle habit. Then the law of intensity comes into play. So if the thought is intensely stubborn, if it is maniacal, the habit to counter it has to be equally maniacal. It has to be equally stubborn. So you can't kill a stubborn thought with a gentle habit. You can't kill a stubborn thought with gentle words or affirmation. Stubborn thoughts have to be countered with stubborn words or stubborn affirmations. Stubborn thoughts have to be countered with stubborn habits as well. Because of the law of intensity prevails over the law of hierarchy. You don't get what you say. You get what you predominantly say. You don't get what you think. You get what you predominantly think of. That's the law of dominance. That's why a lot of people, especially faith people, people who have a particular religion, keep saying that, oh, I am this, I am this, I am that, and you don't see it in their lives. You don't get what you say, you get what you predominantly say. Even that law is subject to other laws as well. When you share a negative desire with a positive person, the negative desire becomes weaker. When you share a negative desire with a negative person, the negative desire becomes stronger. Any feeling that you do not fertilize with words eventually dies. So prolonged silence is a way to train your emotions. When we have certain emotions, we actually release certain hormones. When you are happy, you release serotonin. When you are sad, you are depressed, you are anxious, you release excess cortisol. Excess cortisol will weaken your immune system. So if you need your immune system to be at a certain level to carry a pregnancy and it goes below that level, you will lose the pregnancy. I said, I know people who never expected or felt like they will have cancer or they will have a disease. They eventually had it and died. Why? Because they had cancer habits. If you don't have cancer feelings, well, you have cancer. Because habits are stronger than actions. Actions are stronger than words. Words are stronger than thoughts. And thoughts are stronger than feelings. Eventually, they manifest it. There are many people who say, oh, I am blessed. I am this, I am that. Now, words are powerful, but your habits are stronger than your words. So if your words are saying that I am XYZ, but your habits are saying the opposite thing, because habits are stronger than words in the hierarchy of manifestation, habits will eventually prevail.
Mr. Adekanmi Olusanya, thank you again for this privilege to speak this time around again.
It's a pleasure.
We're going to be talking on emotional mastery. First, what can you describe? What does it mean to master your emotions? What does it mean for someone to master their emotions?
To master your emotions is the ability to know how everything connects with your emotions and to know how to subject everything to the power of your emotions. There are so many things. Silence is highly connected to emotions. Intuition, your words, the way you speak them, understanding people, understanding different temperaments, understanding different situations, your ability to listen. So I would describe emotional mastery as the ability to understand how everything ties to your emotion and how to make the most of it.
Your ability to understand how everything
in life is connected to your emotion and how to make the most of it.
How to make the most of it.
In terms of how to have control and how to exploit every scenario, every possibility to your utmost advantage.
And including manifestations and all of that.
Everything.
Okay, so now what are the hierarchies of manifestation?
Okay. there are 5 elements in the hierarchy of manifestation.
Okay.
First, you have your feelings or emotions, then your thoughts, then your words, then your actions, and then your habits.
Okay.
So these are the 5 expressions in the manifestation of emotion. And until people understand these 5 expressions and the interplay of these expressions, they will never be able to fully understand manifestation and orchestrate manifestation.
Okay.
Yes.
So how explain each and every one of them?
Okay. Very good. Now, feelings are the lowest in the hierarchy of manifestation.
Feelings?
Yes.
Okay.
Your emotions are the lowest in the hierarchy of manifestation. So the fact that you feel a thing will happen does not ultimately mean that it will happen.
Okay.
Now, the fact that a person feels that you will pass an exam or fail an exam does not automatically mean that you will fail or pass that exam. Yes.
How do you mean?
Okay, very good. As a student, I passed many exams I expected to fail, especially the ICANN ones. And then I began to, that was what triggered my research into this area. Then I began to see and understand how those things work. For example, the fact that a person, there were many people who believed that they would go to an embassy believing that they're going to get a visa and they won't get it. You know, there are people who go into a contest, a music contest, a talent show, believing, very optimistic. You know, even when I watch football and I study competitions, you have teams. In the last World Cup, the team that everybody felt like, man, these people are going to end up winning the World Cup, never won the World Cup. The team that eventually won the World Cup was the team that lost their opening game to Saudi Arabia. So I have seen that. I have seen so many instances of people who felt that they will manifest a thing and they did not manifest it. And people who felt like they will not manifest a thing and they eventually manifested it. For example, I know a lot of people who never expected they will have cancer, who eventually succumbed to cancer and died. So it tells you something about feelings, that I'm not saying feelings do not have any impact. No, I'm saying that feelings have a limited impact.
Limited?
Yes. Feelings are necessary, but they are not altogether sufficient.
Okay, now what people they have been said over and over again, but when you feel a thing,
yes,
and you believe it strongly,
yes,
that it most likely comes to pass. So, but you're more or less trying to say the opposite.
Yes.
So, how do you describe it that someone can feel it, and that is the foundation of our faith. That when you feel something, you just believe it strongly, that you eventually manifest it. So, why would you say you can actually believe something? There's one thing to say you believe, and there's another thing to say. And maybe the belief, you are doubting it. But can someone actually believe something strongly or feel it, and then you will not see it, or the opposite will happen?
Of course.
Okay.
I can share many examples with you. So, if you look at TikTok, it's one of the biggest successes in the tech world that we live in today. The founders of TikTok never expected the company to be this successful. Never. They said we never expected or felt like it would be this successful. The second richest man in the world is Elon Musk. Elon Musk said, when I bought Tesla, I expected Tesla to fail. I never expected Tesla to be this successful. Sean Puffy Combs is responsible for the largest selling hip-hop record of all time, I'll Be Missing You, featuring Faith Evans, 112. You know, a song he wrote for his prodigy, Notorious B.I.G. And the person who wrote that song, the verses, was Sauce Money. He said, I never thought it would be this successful. I never thought it would be this successful. So I've seen a lot of people manifest things, even when, because it's just your feelings is one, your thoughts is another one. Your thoughts is higher in the hierarchy than your emotions. Okay. So if I have, that's why when people come to me for coaching and they say, oh, I feel like something bad is going to happen, I say, no problem. It's just a feeling. Let's get your thinking to be in a different light, and then your thinking can dissolve or can dissolve your feeling. But even if we don't use feeling, there's a higher hierarchy. That's your words. If we don't, and higher than your words are what? Your actions. Higher than your actions are your habits. So let me give you an example. I said, I know people who never expected or felt like they will have cancer or they will have a disease. They eventually had it and died. Why? Because they had cancer habits. If you don't have cancer feelings, but you have cancer, because habits are stronger than actions. Actions are stronger than words. Words are stronger than thoughts, and thoughts are stronger than feelings. Eventually, they manifest it. For example, Yes. Let me give you an example. Turkey and Syria is presently plagued with earthquakes. Did they expect that 40,000 people would die in the last 2 weeks due to earthquakes? No. No. They didn't feel that it will happen. They didn't expect that it will happen because it is more than just. So, example, if I have a particular house or a particular environment, and we are not taking care of our climate, our actions every day with carbon emissions, with methane, with fossil fuels, with carbon emission vehicles and everything. Our actions are depreciating the planet, and bringing it into degradation. And we feel that, nothing will happen because actions are stronger in the hierarchy than feelings. Eventually, the actions you take would prevail over your feelings. That's why a lot of people who eventually succeed, who didn't expect that they would succeed, if you check their lives, you see that they had habits and actions that were speaking in consonance with what they manifested, even though they didn't feel like it will happen, but their actions and habits were speaking in that regard. There are many tennis Grand Slam winners who never expected that they would win a Grand Slam when they won the Grand Slam. They didn't expect that they would win. But it was not just about your expectation and your feelings. Were they practicing as though they will win? Were they competing as though they will win? Do you understand? So that's why I say your habits and your actions prevail over your words. I mean, there are many people who say, I am blessed, I am this, I am that. Now, words are powerful, but your habits are stronger than your words. So if your words are saying that I am XYZ, but your habits are saying the opposite thing, because habits are stronger than words in the hierarchy of manifestation, habits will eventually prevail.
It's all about the one that is
higher than the other. Yes.
So if I like every day, let me be saying I am strong, I am rich, I'm a billionaire, or somebody will say, don't confess anything negative, don't confess anything negative. And you don't. But is it possible for someone not to confess negative, not to feel anything negative, or any of it, but be acting and which is those two higher ones, action and
habits.
They have the action and habits and still manifest it in.
I'll share 2 examples with you.
Okay.
Richard Murphy Damijo. He lost his mother before she turned 60. He lost his father before he turned 60. He was afraid that he would not live to be 60. So the feeling was there. But guess what? He had actions and habits of health. So he was living a healthy life in terms of his diet, in terms of his exercise and workouts, in terms of his social interactions, healthy lifestyle, because his habits were life habits. Even though his feelings may have been death feelings, do you understand? The habits eventually prevailed over the feelings, and today he's over 60, still kicking, still doing well and all that. Do you understand? So when people come to me for coaching and they have negative feelings, negative thoughts, what we try to do is we try to replace those negative thoughts with positive ones. But apart from that, we make sure that the person's vocalization of his words, his actions and his habits speak in direct opposite of what the negativity that person is feeling, and then that's how they counter it.
But you've heard over and over again that when you keep thinking of something over and over again, you tend to draw it to you.
Yes.
How?
Yes. So there's what we call the electricity of thoughts. The same way you put sugar in a place and ants, after a while, you don't know where the ants are coming from. You put food that is spoiled. Before you know it, maggots appear. Everything that we do has an electromagnetic effect. Everything you do.
So does it mean that if you are thinking of something, even though you don't have the action and the habit, you still want to manifest?
No, that's why I told you that there's a hierarchy in the manifestation. So it's good to feel it. However, you must also make sure that your words, your actions, and your habits are in consonance with it.
Okay.
Do you understand? So there must be what we call alignment.
Now, when someone is afraid of something, so if someone is afraid of something, and then he keeps thinking of that, because they say when you're afraid of something, like they say what the Bible said, like Job said, the thing I feared most has come upon me. So does it mean that because he was afraid of that thing, even though he wasn't having that action and that habit towards it, the thing will eventually manifest just because he's thinking of it and he's afraid of it.
Yes. Okay. So what you said now is that he doesn't have the actions and the habits in that regard.
Yes.
It will be very difficult for that to happen. And there's only one exemption. And I'll explain it to you. Apart from what we call the law of hierarchy, there's also what we call the law of intensity. I'll explain. There's a law of hierarchy, but superior to the law of hierarchy is what we call the law of intensity. Now, let me explain to you. Now, you talk about somebody who is afraid of dying or afraid of something bad. He has a premonition, but he doesn't have the habits or doesn't have the same actions. Now, that's where the law of intensity may come in. Because in the law of intensity, a baby lion cannot kill a mature elephant. Even though lions are kings of the jungle. But a baby lion cannot kill a mature elephant. The same way, even though a habit is superior to a feeling or a thought, if a thought is very stubborn, you can't counter a stubborn thought with a gentle habit. The law of intensity the law of intensity comes into play. So if the thought is intensely stubborn, if it is maniacal, the habit to counter it has to be equally maniacal. It has to be equally stubborn. So you can't kill a stubborn thought with a gentle habit. You can't kill a stubborn thought with gentle words or affirmation. Stubborn thoughts have to be countered with stubborn words or stubborn affirmations. Stubborn thoughts have to be countered with stubborn habits as well. Because of the law of intensity prevails over the law of hierarchy.
Now, based on what you said now, let me give you this different example, this life experience example that I've heard happen to someone. How can the person be able to counter this kind of thing? Because the person is afraid of flight. So the person avoided anything regarding flying. He's afraid of dying. He believes that maybe if he takes any flight, the flight is going to crash. So due to that feeling and that thought and that stubborn thought that we keep talking about, that he keeps dodging anything that deals with flight. But the day he finally decides to fly, he died on that plane crash. So why? If you tell me that it's not because of his habit as to, are you saying that because he's afraid of dying and knowing that he's thinking that if he takes plane, he's going to crash, so he shouldn't have gone to take any plane, or you should have work against the thoughts? Why did it happen?
Yes, back to what I'm talking about, the law of intensity.
Yes.
I said the law of intensity states that every thought that is stubborn must be countered with an equally stubborn expression, whether it's words or actions or habits. So I said that if you have a stubborn thought, you cannot counter a stubborn thought with a docile or a gentle affirmation or habit. The stubborn thought must be countered with an equally stubborn positive habit.
How
do you
can
understand?
You help that person now in this kind of situation now?
Yes.
This example of the person, that how can the person counter it?
Yes.
With a more habits or actions?
Very good. I'll give you a practical example.
Yes.
Of somebody I coached.
Okay.
She was afraid of staying in a house alone. So her fear was she was afraid of staying in places alone.
Okay.
Then she was afraid of also having bad dreams. Okay. And she was having a lot of bad dreams. And I said to her that the reason why you're having bad dreams is that you spend more time thinking about the bad dreams you have had over the good dreams you have had. And I asked her, have you ever had any good dream in your life? She said yes. I said, can you list 3 of the best dreams you have ever had? Because repetition is emotion. You need to write that down. Repetition is emotion. Now, write down 3 of the best dreams you have ever had. She wrote down the 3 best dreams she's ever had. And I said, when you wake up in the morning, first thing, read those dreams to yourself. The first 20 minutes when you wake up in the morning, because the first 20 minutes, your frequency is very high. Frequency is very high. When you wake up in the morning, your frequency is the delta theta frequency. It's very good for impressionability. It's very good for changing your subconscious or programming your subconscious. Yes. Now, so she would spend the first 20 minutes reading those dreams, the good dreams she has had, reading them out loud to herself. Because some of these things also matter. When you vocalize a thing and you're saying it in a loud way, and you're saying it in a convincing way, it also has its impact. Now, the more she was acquainting herself with her good dreams, the less she was being mindful of her bad dreams. Because your mind is a vacuum. The more you put it, the more you fill it in with good things, the more the evil things or the negative things begin to have lesser dominance. That's the way the mind works. It works like a container. So every morning, speaking it for just 20 minutes, reading it out loud and saying it, repetition is action. Repetition is emotion. Repetition is emotion. If you repeat it, you will eventually feel it. That's why if you hear a song on radio, and that song is a song you don't like, if you constantly hear that song, you will eventually like the song, or you eventually take to the song. You might find yourself even miming the song subconsciously. Yes. Repetition is emotion.
So now, in that person's case, now that died in plane crash, what could he have done that would have saved him?
Okay. Now, what he should have done was to ensure that he gets to a point where the thoughts or the feeling, the fear of flying is no longer stubborn. So he should have made sure that he replaced that stubborn feeling with an equally stubborn conviction.
Like,
okay, you don't even have to go on a plane. You can play it in your mind. Let me tell you, listen to this. And you can do it for anything you want in this life, anything you want. And this is the golden key. The golden key is this: words sufficiently internalized eventually become images. Images sufficiently internalized eventually become experiences. I'll say that once again. If you intensely internalize words, they eventually become images. When you intensely internalize an image, it will eventually become an experience. So what he was looking for was an experience. An experience of, he was looking for an experience of flying successfully. So what you need is that, first of all, you take those words, I fly successfully, I do not have the fear of flying. You don't even say that. You say, I enjoy flying, I love flying. I am so glad and I'm so fulfilled when I'm flying. I fly in bliss and comfort. I fly in peace and tranquility. I enjoy the experience of flying. And you say it to yourself sufficiently.
With his mouth or
yes,
within his thoughts?
Both of them. Okay. Very powerful. Very powerful. Now, if he internalizes it sufficiently, it will become an image. He will start to imagine himself flying. He will start to imagine himself, he will even dream of him flying and landing successfully. Now, that is now in image form. That's the second. He has not gotten to the highest hierarchy. Now, images sufficiently internalized eventually become experiences, which means you will get to the point that even when you try to suppress yourself from flying, you feel like going, you feel like, I want to give it a shot. I want to give it a shot. That when you get to that point, then you know that it's now a stubborn expression. Now, a stubborn expression is that will be able to counter a stubborn thought or stubborn feeling. Do you understand? So we don't just look at the hierarchy of manifestation or the law of hierarchy. We now look at the law of intensity. So when a person has an issue, a negative expression manifesting itself, the person needs to ask himself, what is the intensity of the expression? Is it maniacal? Is it stubborn? Is it mild? Or is it casual? These are the four levels. Yes, maniacal means that it's now an obsession. Okay. It is now an obsession. It's just like a person that can sell anything just to buy something that he likes, an addiction. It's just like when somebody, for example, is in love with a lady. Let me give you a practical example of something that is maniacal. When you are in love with a lady to the point that you drop out of school just because she broke up with you. You are so crazy about her that it makes you drop out of school, or you start doing things that you can't even imagine. So it has gotten to a point of the deepest point of obsession, or it's maniacal. But less than that is what you call it stubborn. Stubborn means that it occurs every time in the day in the person's mind. It occurs. Okay. You know, it also affects the person's actions.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
So a person may be afraid of, like I said, staying in a house alone, and then you start inviting people to pass the night with you. You know, so that is stubborn because it's already impeding your actions, that affecting your actions. And then you have the other level, which is less intense. You have a level that is just what you call it is noticeable. It is mild. And then you have the one that is casual. That is, it's almost like a joke. It just comes. You don't even notice it, you know, but it's there. But it's casual. It's very, very casual or very docile.
So those ones are not prone to manifesting.
They're not prone to manifesting. They're not prone to manifesting at all. They're so casual
what is the highest point it has to get to before it becomes something that is going to eventually manifest?
That's the point of obsession.
That is point of
obsession. Yes,
maniacal.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Now, when it comes to emotions, there is what we call fear, joy, love, happiness, and all of that. Now, how do you describe someone that is afraid? What does it mean to be afraid? When someone is truly afraid of something, what is the eventuality of that?
Yes, you see, that question does not have a direct answer because it's subject to other laws. The fact that a person is afraid of a thing does not mean that there must be an eventual outcome. I've given you different examples.
Yes.
There are people who were afraid of dying, who died. I'll give you an example. Marvin Gaye was afraid of dying. When Marvin Gaye goes into an elevator, he will press all the numbers in the elevator because he's afraid. He's afraid that he doesn't know whether somebody is trying to hurt him on the first floor, the second floor, and he doesn't want people to know what floor he's going into. Okay. Do you understand? So now, when people get to that level, it's almost becoming maniacal. Do you understand? Almost becoming maniacal. We've dealt with people who were afraid of having a particular ailment, and they will just go to the hospital regularly to just check. We've had people that were changing their numbers, their cell phone numbers, every 2 months, every 3 months, every 4 months, because they were afraid. Now, it's already impeding into your actions. Now, eventually, Marvin Gaye died. He bought a gun for his father just for protection. He went to his father's house. When naturally, he never should have been in his father's house. And he was passing the night there. He was staying there for a while. His mother and father had an argument, and his father was threatening to beat up his mother. He wasn't happy about the situation. He went, pushed his father. His father brought out the gun and shot him 3 times, and he died.
Wow.
Yes. So there are many people who were afraid, really afraid of a thing happening, and it happened. But it's because all the laws were fulfilled. However, there are different conditions that have to be met. There are different conditions. There's what we call environmental enforcement, which means, listen to this. If a person is afraid of a thing happening, you're afraid of you having an accident.
Yes.
In certain countries,
yes.
For it to happen, it will take almost a miracle in certain cities, in certain countries, because the structures in those places make it difficult for there to be an accident.
That's true.
Now, the environment is enforcing the manifestation of a certain thing, the laws of that nation, that country.
That's true.
Yes. You see, if a woman is afraid of being raped,
yes.
There are certain countries where the environment will help your fear come to pass. Yes, there are certain countries where the environment will seriously work against, because the rates, based on the structures, the laws, and the systems that they have, will make it very difficult for such a thing to occur. Do you understand?
Yes.
So there are many factors that lead to manifestation. But the 3 main factors are: number 1, the law of hierarchy, the law of intensity of what you're feeling, and finally, environmental enforcement.
Wow. Why I asked this question was because each time I go to some blogs online that talks on marriage, relationship, and all of that, you see many men commenting on why they are afraid of getting married wrongly. I don't want to meet the wrong partner. So it delays their getting married. So how can somebody proactively work against that? Or how can a person be able to overcome that kind of fear and just jump into the married life to go out to pick up a partner to get married?
Very good question. Now, back to the law I gave you. A word intensely internalized will become an image. An image intensely internalized will become an experience. So let's assume that I'm afraid of getting married.
Yes.
Let's assume a person is afraid of getting married. What you need to do is to find words that speak in the opposite direction. That is, man, I love the institution of marriage. I love my marriage. I am blissfully married to the woman of my dreams. Do you understand? And you take those words and you say, I am so fulfilled. I am so happy that I'm finally married to the woman of my dreams. And you take those words.
Even when the person is not married yet.
Yes. And you begin to internalize it. You begin to internalize it. You begin to internalize it. There's a law called the law of saturation. You don't get what you say. You get what you predominantly say. You don't get what you think. You get what you predominantly think of. That's the law of dominance. Do you understand?
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's why a lot of people, especially faith people who have a particular religion, keep saying that, oh, I am this, I am this, I am that. And you don't see it in their lives.
Yes.
You don't get what you say. You get what you predominantly say. Even that law is subject to other laws as well. Do you understand? So, this person, in quotes, wants to get married. With people that we coach, we advise them to have alarms on their phones about 8 times a day. Yeah, the alarm goes up to remind them to say it or to make them conscious of it. Do you understand? Yes. Conscious. So that consciousness, like I said, remember the law I said? I said that a word intensely internalized will become an image. When
you say a word, can it also be a thought intensely internalized?
Why not? Okay. Why not? Becomes an image. But the key there is intense internalization. It has to become part and parcel of you. And then an image intensely internalized will now become what? An experience.
Okay, now how do you approach regulating your emotions?
Okay.
If someone wants to regulate their emotions, how do you approach it? What does it mean like to be able to regulate your emotions, all of them put together?
Okay. There are many approaches into regulating your emotions. So many approaches.
Okay.
Let me share one with you. This experiment was conducted in an organization in America, well over 20 years ago. They wanted the people to take the staircase. They were taking the elevator previously. And they told them that taking the staircase is good for you. It's very good for you. It's good for your health. You are going to burn calories and fat and all that. And it's also good for our environments because we don't consume as much energy when people take the staircase rather than the elevator, and so on and so forth. They just went on. Nothing happened. People continued to take the elevator. Even after they put placards on the walls and all that, nothing happened. Guess what? Then they did something. They made the elevator become very slow in closing.
Okay.
So the elevator, you get into the elevator, but the door closes very slowly. Very slowly. People began to get irritated.
Okay, that the timing for the closing is...
You know what they decided? They'll just come out of the elevator and take the staircase. So they made it painful. Do you understand? One of the ways you can regulate an emotion is what we call the pain principle. What does this mean? If you make expressing an emotion painful, you'll find out that you are expressing less of that emotion. Yes. If it becomes more painful now, but guess what? Hold on. You need to hold on.
Okay.
The pain must supersede the gain.
The pain
must supersede the gain. Yes. The pain must supersede the gain. Once the pain supersedes the gain, it will happen effortlessly. I'll share an example with you. A man really was into drinking stout, and he was a pastor, but he was really into it. He felt it was a habit now, or maybe even call it an addiction. He would do it every day, and he used to take 2 bottles of stout, big stout. If you understand this story, you understand everything. And guess what happened? He went to eat one day, and after the sumptuous meal, he started downing the 2 bottles of big stout.
As usual.
And then he met a member of his congregation who saw him with 2 bottles of stout. And the person walked up to him and said, but I thought you were a pastor. What are you doing with this? And the person said to him, I'm disappointed. I'm really disappointed. I thought you were actually a genuine man of God. And guess what? That experience was so painful, so painful, that after that day, he effortlessly stopped taking stout. Guess what?
Wow.
Guess what? Before, the reason why he took stout was because whenever he eats, he feels like vomiting. Okay. And so he takes stout to stop him from vomiting. But guess what? After that experience, he stopped taking stout and he stopped feeling like vomiting. You know what happened? Wow. The pain of that encounter, that experience, superseded the gains he was getting. Do you understand? That's the way it works. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So how do you master your pain?
How do you master pain?
Yes.
Okay. Mastery is repetition and repetition is mastery.
Okay.
I'll say it again. Mastery is repetition and repetition is mastery.
Okay.
So to master pain is to repeat it till you become used to it. Till you become used to it. You become used to it. Okay. Now, if you look at this, I can give you so many examples of people who were scared of certain things, very scared of things. But after repetition and repetition and repetition and repetition, they became very used to it. That's human nature for you. Human nature. So what I say to people is that human nature receives a thing. After a while, it registers it. After a while, it begins to revel in it. So it begins to enjoy it. It revels in it. It just begins to enjoy it. But it starts to, for example, I know people who love to wake up early now. Love to wake up early. When I started intermittent fasting, do you understand? Yeah. Sometimes by 3 o'clock, I'll feel so hungry. But after I repeated it over and over again, it just became normal nature. So repetition is mastery and mastery is repetition. So to have mastery over pain is that you have gone through repeated cycles of that pain. And it's not just going through repeated cycles, because there are people who go through the pain of emotional abuse in a household and they never get used to it. That's the truth. So we have to be very clear that we are putting this in context. I'm talking about pain where people recognize that this pain is actually good for me. Yes. So it is positive pain. You understand? There are people who go through the pain of being stigmatized in a society. Look at slavery in America. It was going on for years on ending. You understand? But they still were dissatisfied with it. They could have decided to get used to it. So I'm talking about pain that is intentional. You know that it's beneficial for you. And because you know that it's beneficial, you set out on a course to gain mastery of it.
Now you said pain is a revelator.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Pain is a revelator, no doubt. You know what pain does is this. Pain reveals who you are. Pain reveals who you are. I'll share an example with you. A pastor goes for an injection in a hospital. The injection is so painful, and he has no clue that this injection is really painful. The moment they make the incision, guess what happens? He shouts, "Shopono!" Shopono is the name of an idol. Yes. So pain actually revealed who he was. Do you understand? Yes. It's not a pastor. It's not a pastor. He's an idol worshiper. Inside. Pain brings out what is really inside. Wow. I'll share another example with you. We had this further maths teacher when we were in school. He used to speak, with an American accent, And one day the class was so hot. It was so hot. Everybody was sweating. And then all of it, suddenly he said, "Nah, this place too hot." So it was a discomfort or an uncomfortable situation that brought out what was inside him. So that's why I say pain is a revelator.
Now, you said something regarding pain. And you said when you are at level 6 pain, you cannot make level 5 mistake.
Yes.
And you also said that when you are at level 6 mistake, you are bound to make level 5. Level 7.
Yes. Yes.
You said something regarding it. Break it down.
Okay.
Or see it clearer.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, this is it. There are hierarchies in everything.
Okay.
For example, look at a Ponzi scheme, for example. When people come with a Ponzi scheme and it's all brand new, it's new, people don't know too much about it, and they fall to that Ponzi scheme. They have made a mistake on a certain level, and they're going to get a certain pain at a certain level. The pain of, losing your money. But when they go through that pain, and they sufficiently go through it, that is, they have gone through this pain, they have gotten to a higher level. Every pain that you go through takes you to a higher threshold of pain. Or, yes, ushers you into a higher threshold of pain. Now, when you get into that threshold of pain, because you have gone beyond that, you don't make mistakes at the level below that because you have gone above it. So, a child that gets burnt in fire, gets a hand burnt in fire or his hand burnt in fire, does not go back. He has passed that level of pain, so he doesn't make those same mistakes again. So that's the way it works.
But you say when you're at level 6 pain, you are bound to make level 7 mistakes.
Yes.
Then what does it mean?
Yes. So, for example, when you get to areas that, when you are building a bungalow, you have built bungalows. If you are going to build that same bungalow, you're most likely not going to have issues, all other things being equal, because you've done it before. But when you are going to build a skyscraper and you have never built a skyscraper before, do you understand? You are most likely to make mistakes on that level because it's a higher level. Do you understand? So somebody who is building a skyscraper will not make bungalow mistakes. But somebody who has only built a bungalow but wants to build a skyscraper is most likely to make skyscraper mistakes. So yes. So whenever you make certain mistakes in life and the pain comes to you, what you should humbly tell yourself is that I'm here to master this level. I'm here to because once I master it, I won't make mistakes at that level.
Yeah, but, but based on what you said earlier on regarding when someone has overcome a particular threshold of pain, that he won't go down to it again. I've seen people repeatedly make some mistakes, like this Ponzi scheme, like you said, as an example. When MMM came out, most people invested in it, made that mistake, lost money. But when that Ponzi scheme come out again, the same people will still put their head into it. So does it mean they didn't learn from the first mistake that ate their money? Why? Why would they do that?
Okay, so mastering pain does not mean that it's going to be a once in a lifetime experience. Some people need to go through different cycles before they learn. Yes. Some people, people have what you call the same way you have what you call emotional quotient, intelligence quotient, IQ. Some people's pain quotient is very low, that they need to learn a lesson over and over again before they ascend to a higher level.
Okay.
Yes, some people are like that. So a woman can get her heart broken by a particular kind of guy and fall in love with that same again and again, So there are women who have to have their hearts broken by 4 men before they eventually, then there are women that even one man alone or half a man alone is enough to get them. So we have different, what we call pain quotients. Some people, we do have.
Okay, so that means it depends on the individual or the person.
It depends on the individual.
And his own threshold of carrying that pain. For the person to know that, but sometimes it may not necessarily mean that the person didn't learn from the other one. Or maybe because the person has learned from the other one, he's being careful on the second one, but have this optimistic view that the second one is going to be different. So, and the person stumbled onto it again, but it became a repeated cycle. Then how do you explain that cycle? Yeah,
it still boils down to the fact that the person has not mastered that level very well. Yes. Optimism does not also wipe out intuition. Yes. So you may be optimistic in a particular thing, but also intuitive. So for example, you see the way the guy talks to people. The way he talks to maybe officials on the road, the way he talks to a bartender or whatever, a steward, the way he talks to people. You saw that first trait in the first guy, that was why he was very abrasive. When you begin to see the second trait in the other person, even optimism will tell you that no matter how optimistic I am, I need to be watchful. I need to be careful. I need to be careful.
Interesting. Yeah. Now you said something about the seven sins of the modern day church.
Okay. 7 sins of the modern day church. Simple. Number 1, The modern day church emphasizes evangelism over discipleship,
Okay.
healing over health,
Okay.
yes, dating over parenting,
Okay.
yes, numerical growth over spiritual growth,
Interesting.
yes, numerical growth over, then the building of structures over the building of people, and then we put materialism over spiritual,ism. Yes. So those are
How
some of
are they seen? How are they the 7 sins of the modern day church? How are they
okay, very good. If you look at Pentecostals now, Pentecostals die more of cancer more than Seventh-day Adventists. Yes. Why? Because we emphasize more on healing than health. And health is superior to healing. Health means that you don't fall sick. Healing means that you fell sick, but that you were healed. You were cured. Do you understand? Now, it is better never to fall sick at all than to fall sick and you are cured. Now, but the church doesn't tell people about, we don't emphasize the lifestyle habits you need to have to never fall sick. We don't emphasize things like, every member should go for a medical checkup every year, that exercise must be part of your lifestyle, things like that, your dieting and things like that. We spend more on healing services, the amount we invested in healing services and healing ministers, we put in that same effort into training people how to be healthy. Guess what? We will have more people that are healthy than people that need healing. And so it's very ironic that you are talking about healing, and yet in that same environment, you have more Christians dying of unnecessary diseases than even other people who don't profess that in their faith as much. Do you understand? So that's why we called it one of the sins.
So that's on healing.
Healing.
Yes, you mentioned different types. Can you break all of them down?
Oh, okay. So the parenting over dating, and the dating over parenting. So the church organizes a lot of services for single and married, or single love and all that. We spend a lot of time, talking about. In fact, you have people who, that's their core area now. They preach a lot on relationships and marriage and all that. There are a lot of prayer points for people to get married and this like that. There are even social platforms now for Christians to link up with each other and people to meet their spouses. But if you look at parenting is not giving even a quarter of that attention. But when you go to the Bible places more emphasis on parenting than even relationships. So listen, go to the book of Proverbs, for example. In the book of Proverbs, you have more verses on parenting than verses on dating and love and marriage. Yeah. In Proverbs 22 and verse 6, train up a child in the way he should go. When he's old, he'll not depart from it. Verse 15, foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction will drive it far from him. You go to Proverbs 23, 13 and 14. Withhold not correction from a child, for if you beat him with a rod, he shall not die. You will beat him with a rod and you will deliver his soul from hell. Go to Proverbs chapter 29, verse 15. It says, a child left to himself brings his mother to shame. The rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself brings his mother to shame. Go to verse 19, verse 17. Correct thy son and he shall give thee rest. He shall give thee light unto thy soul. Then you go to Proverbs chapter 10, verse 5. He that gathers in summer is a wise son. He that sleepeth in harvest is a son that calleth shame. I can quote at least 20 verses on parenting in the book of Proverbs alone. But when it comes to dating, I'm not saying that it shouldn't be spoken about. No. However, you won't find up to 50% of that number in the book of Proverbs and even other books of the Bible. I'm saying that if you take parenting more seriously and you parent children properly, you won't need dating. Let me tell you something. When Christianity was Christianity, there were no things like that. When you went to a Christian bookstore, you didn't find books on dating and all that. And yet, marriages were healthier.
That's true.
Marriages were healthier. Yes, sir. Because let me tell you something. We should solve problems from the roots. If you solve a problem from the roots, if the foundation is faulty, the whole building will crumble. The 5th floor, the 7th floor, the 18th. Dating is like the 18th floor.
That's true.
Parenting is like the foundation. So you have left the foundation and you are taking care of the 18th floor. Now the foundation is crumbling. So you see, when we parent children properly, they grow up to become excellent people in dating, in relating with people. They eventually have excellent marriages. That's why, like I said to you, many years ago, we didn't have all these structures where you didn't have too many books on dating and relationships. It was when the structures crumbled that these other things, these other vipers started coming up, and then we're now paying more attention to them.
Now, on this dating, so when you're talking about parenting, maybe the dating is because maybe those people that didn't have a good parenting. Is it possible for someone not to have a good parenting? That is the reason why they will come up and start going for dating classes just to brush up that they're deficient of my growing up.
That's what I'm talking about. That, of course, there was a deficiency in the foundation. When people grew up in happy homes, let me tell you something. You shouldn't teach all these things. You don't teach all these things. When I'll share a story with you. Mohammed Ojefo, was a colleague of mine, Unilag, studied accounting. Mohammed Ojefo told me that he had to ask his mother and his father that, I've never seen you quarrel. Why don't you quarrel? That other parents quarrel. Other couples quarrel. You never quarrel. That why? What's happening? That you guys, it's not normal. Why? He grew up in a happy and responsible home. The parents had values. They knew that we are never going to exchange words in the presence of our children. We are never going to use abusive words. We are never going to take advantage of each other. So they saw it. I mean, it was a lifestyle. So he took that same thing into his family and is manifesting the same results. You understand? So they didn't have to go for a class. But parenting was done properly. And so you don't need, you see, when you raise people very well, you don't need to tell them certain things. You don't need to tell them certain things that, you don't drink, or you don't treat people like this, or you don't talk like this. You don't have all those sermonizing to do. It just becomes natural. It becomes natural.
Now, when you're talking, that's the sense where I'm talking about where the church coming regarding the dating and all of that. Maybe those that maybe have the deficiency in all of that. But let me drop that for now. Let's come into the neuroscience of infidelity. Okay. What does it mean when you talk about something like that?
Okay, neuroscience of infidelity.
Yes.
So what I did was that I studied a little bit about people who went into infidelity.
Okay.
I looked at a lot of things about the environments they were in. We looked at the way their brains worked, studied a lot of things, and then we were able to come up with certain triggers to support why people engage in infidelity.
Okay.
Now, one of them is this, is lack of accountability. Let me share this with you. When you share a negative desire with a positive person, the negative desire becomes weaker. Let me repeat that. When you share a negative desire with a positive person, the negative desire becomes weaker. Let me share this. I'll give you practical examples. Most men that we interviewed, before they went into infidelity, they never discussed it with their wife. That, I feel like sleeping with someone else. No, they hid it. Then not only did they hide it, when you share a negative desire with a negative person, the negative desire becomes stronger. So they share those negative desires with wrong people. Do you understand? Let me give you an example. Peter Obi was going to leave PDP for Labour Party. And you know what he said? He said, I didn't want to tell anybody because if I told them, they would have discouraged me. Exactly. When you share a good course of action with a wrong person, it will contaminate that action.
Wow.
Yes. So So the same way, if you share a negative desire with a positive person, it will turn that negative desire even to a positive desire. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, okay, yeah. Very good. Someone wants to file for divorce. Clarence Evans, his son. Clarence Evans is an American guru in music, you know, and his son wants to go for a divorce. And his son, he begins to scold his son. He says by the time he finished talking to his son did not feel like getting a divorce anymore at all. I'll share more examples with you, please.
Okay.
Snoop Dogg is one of the most successful rappers of all time. One of the most successful rappers of all time. He wrote a song one day and felt like this song is not good enough. Tossed the piece of paper into a trash can. He had a friend called Warren G. Took the piece of paper out and told him that no, this is a very good song, and you need to begin to hone your skills. He took his advice. Wasn't going to do it. And then with that advice, he's become one of the most successful hip-hop stars of all time. He had a negative desire or a reluctant desire, but shared with a positive person, and the reluctance became what? Passion.
Wow.
Yes.
Interesting. So that means if someone is thinking of anything negative,
yes,
if the person hides it,
yes,
is it going to weaken, or
no,
does it need to share it out?
No. Share it with the right person.
How would you know the right person?
Okay, yes, very good. That's where you have to also now find out the kind of values the person has, the kind of character the person has. So when I mean share it, I'm not talking about people that you don't even know. You know, a patient person is a person who has practiced patience over time. A stingy person is somebody who has practiced stinginess over time. A generous person is somebody who has practiced generosity over time. So you need to know who you are actually sharing it with.
Interesting. So now, what is the difference between winning and succeeding?
Okay, very simple. To win means that there's a contest. To succeed means that there's progress.
But
listen, I'll take it again.
Okay.
To win means that you came out top in a contest. To succeed means that you made progress.
Are they not still the same thing?
No, never. Let me tell you something. I know many people who did not win a talent show. But because they participated in that talent show, guess what? They got a record deal. They became very popular. They became successful. That was how their star blew up. Do you understand? No, they didn't win, but they succeeded.
Yeah,
do you understand? Let me tell you something. I know people who they never ran a successful company, or they never won in quotes in certain business ventures. But the lessons that they took from those ventures was able to make them succeed in many other areas of life. So they didn't win, but they succeeded. Yes. And to be fulfilled in life, you must be more centered on succeeding than winning. You must be more into succeeding. You're more success-centered than victory-centered.
More success-centered than victory-centered.
Yes, there are many situations we'll find ourselves in where we will not win. But if we do a lot of introspection, we'll find out that we actually succeeded.
Now, how do you help children overcome habits?
Very simple. Let's say the child is struggling with pornography, masturbation, whatever it is. I say this. If we can get the child to increase in 7 areas of life, 7 pillars, his communion life increases, his fellowship life increases, his prayer life increases, his Bible study life increases, his giving life increases, his kingdom service life increases, his fasting life increases. One thing about life is that if you are increasing in areas of your strength or in the good, negative, positive areas of life, you are automatically decreasing in the negative areas of life. That's the way it works. Yes. So if a child is getting stronger in his Holy Communion life, his fellowship life, his prayer life, his Bible study life, you can go to sleep on every other thing. Other areas will begin to weaken over time. will begin to weaken over time. You know what the Bible says? The Bible says that in the last days, men shall be lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God. The key to life is that if you are growing in pleasure, you are going to be diminishing in God. And yes, that's why men be lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God. That's why the Bible says, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. You can't love the world and love the Father. If you are growing in the world, you are going to be diminishing in the Father. If you are growing in the Father, you are going to be diminishing in the world. In the world, that is, yeah.
Interesting. Now,
so that's what we do. It's just we function like I tell people, life works like a machine. So we just apply those principles and make sure that on those metrics that the child is increasing in those areas. And before you know it, the child is loving God more. He's looking forward to studying more, and there's less of all those things.
So it means that, even though you don't want to, there's also the portion of scripture that said that the spirit is willing but the flesh is weak.
Yes.
So the person wants to do those things you listed, but the other weaker part of it is drawing him back to that same bad habit. So what's the best way to counter it?
Okay. What energy flows where attention goes. Energy flows where attention goes. If you give a thing more attention over time, it will grow. So listen to me. It doesn't mean that, let me tell you something. When a person has a negative habit he's struggling with, you need to ask yourself, what is the strength of that habit? And then 2 months later, how strong is that habit? Because the habit may actually be getting weaker and weaker over time. And then after a while, the person overcomes it. Do you understand? So what the person should do is that, okay, let me strengthen the alternative. And let me make sure that the alternative starts getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. So I'll give you an example, pure example. Apostle Paul had a problem with sexual perversion. Apostle Paul had, it's in the Bible. Romans 7. He said, I had not known sin except the Bible, or except the law says that I should not lust. And then sin, taking occasion by the commandments, wrought in me all manner of concupiscence. Concupiscence is taken from the Greek word epithumia. It means lust, burning passion. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's it.
Wow,
that's it. So Apostle Paul had issues. That's why Apostle Paul says, the things that I want to do, I do not do. But the things that I want to do, I don't find myself doing. Now, Apostle Paul got to a state of hopelessness. He said, oh, wretched man, who will deliver me from the body of this death? Yes, but hold on. But guess what? You may be watching pornography or masturbating 9 times a day. But yet, you start only with 15 minutes of studying the word. And you consistently continue with that 15 minutes to the point that you grow it to 30 minutes. After a while, you now grow it to 30 minutes plus 30 minutes of speaking in tongues. And you continue. As your prayer life is growing, your pornography life will be coming down. That's the way it works. So see, that Apostle Paul that was complaining that he's a wretched man, after a while, he says, thanks be to God. He gets to the second level. There is now therefore no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. For the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus has set us free from the law of sin and death. So he's got to the level where this guilt, this condemnation does not weigh me down anymore. He's getting to the point that there are people who will not go to church on Sunday because they fornicated on a Saturday evening. Apostle Paul said, the condemnation does not even affect me anymore. It doesn't affect me. But he goes beyond that level to what I call level 3. Level 3 now says that, you know what? I keep under my body and I bring it into subjection, lest by any means, after I've preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. The same man that said I was a wretched man is now saying, I know how, now I keep under my body. I've grown. Then the same man says, it's not even a matter of keeping under my body. I don't even have issues anymore. I'm crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. Yet not I, but Christ lives in me. And the life that I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. So you can see his growth over time. The problem with us is that we don't understand how this thing works like an engine, how it works like a science. That whenever I have a thing I'm dealing with, let me find an alternate thing and give it attention. I told you that attention is emotion. If you give it attention, you will feel like it eventually. Attention is energy. attention is belief. Yes. If you give it attention, you will believe in it. That's it.
All your discussion regarding breaking the habit and all of that, it's more or less more like you have to be a Christian to be able to do that. And someone who is not a Christian not be able to break free from these habits, or someone that is not a believer that will say, okay, also you have to be that, you have to be reading Bible. Which other ways can those set of kind of people be able to break free from any form of bad habit like pornography? So is there another different example apart from you have to be a believer?
You don't have to be a believer to break any habits. You don't. There's nothing in the Bible that even suggests that you have to be a believer to break a habit. I mean, of course, David Crosby of the rock group Crosby, Stills and Nash died few months ago. He had a cocaine addiction. When he went to jail for about less than 6 months and there was no cocaine, he came out totally clear and free. So that's what we call the withdrawal syndrome. When you withdraw from a thing, then you have an affinity to overcome it. So yeah, he was a cocaine addict before he went into jail. When he went into jail, he came out clean. So you don't have to be a Christian. All people need to do. I'm not saying that people should not become Christian or should not become born again.
Yes,
no, never. Yeah. I'm saying that overcoming habits or attaining anything have principles. Or you need to understand the principles. Please understand the principles. Once you understand the principles, then you can attain the manifestation.
Interesting. You said something like men hear words, women experience words.
Yes.
What do you mean by it?
Yeah, because the brain of a woman is totally different from the brain of a man. Okay. The way a man processes words is different. Now, so if you tell a woman that you are beautiful, she doesn't just hear I'm beautiful, she begins to experience being beautiful. When you tell a woman I love you, she doesn't hear I love you, she experiences you loving her. Yes. And the reason I said so is so that we don't say certain things to women. A married man, should be careful of what he says to a woman who is also married to another man. Do you understand? Because when you tell a woman who is married, that, oh man, you are dashingly beautiful, and you are saying it to her regularly, if her husband is not saying the same thing to her, all other things being equal, she's going to experience that compliment. It's not just going to be a word, it's going to be an experience. So there'll be imagination, and it could begin to tilt her emotions towards the man, and it could be a template for adultery. Yes, and infidelity. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
What more explanation can you give around it? The examples.
Okay, examples. Okay, so when you tell a woman that you are not working hard enough, or you are not you are not appealing enough, you don't have a market appeal, there was a particular woman who was told something similar in that light. And she was sad, very sad. She was pregnant. And because she had cried, and been crying, she was just tired of crying. And guess what happened? She decided that she was not going to cry. She went into depression and lost her pregnancy.
Wow.
Yes. So it affects our biochemistry, because when we have certain emotions, we actually release certain hormones. When you're happy, you release serotonin. When you are sad, you are depressed, you are anxious, you release excess cortisol. Excess cortisol will weaken your immune system. So if you need your immune system to be at a certain level to carry a pregnancy, and it goes below that level, you will lose the pregnancy.
Interesting.
Yes.
Now, now let me move into the emotion of anger. How does anger come about, and is it possible to overcome that emotion?
Yes.
How?
It's very possible. Okay. I want to share a practical example with you. Pastor Deboye is having a discussion with the Lord. I'm sharing an example from him. He shows the example. And he's trusting God for a greater anointing. And he says that, and God is saying that, do you know the price you must pay for this anointing? And he thinks that God is going to say, you have to fast more. Maybe you fast for 40 more days or anything. And God says, no, that if I give you this anointing, whatever you say will come to pass. So you must never get angry. You must never get angry. I told you something. I say, when you see the price, it's easier to pay the price Yes.
When you see the price.
When you see the price, it's
Let's
easier to pay the price. And let me tell you something, and see, this is where attention comes in. I'm going to share 2 examples with you.
Okay.
Pain is only strong when you are attentive to it. And when I mean pain, I mean anything negative now.
Okay.
Yes. Or anything that we seemingly run away from. Let me give you this example. A pastor was going to preach a message. But before that, hot water had poured on his feet. So when he put on his shoes, it was painful because hot water means his feet was burned. But he had to wear a shoe and wear a suit to preach. So he just went. Guess what? When he was preaching the sermon, he didn't even remember that his feet was burnt because his attention was on the sermon. The moment he came down from the pulpit, that's when he started to feel the pain. Do you understand? So it is not the pain that made him feel pain. It was the attention he was giving to the pain that made him feel pain. Do you understand? When he saw a bigger prize, the pain left. He didn't even know. Like, do you understand?
Now, how does it relate with being angry?
Angry, very good, very good. You see, let me tell you something. The first day I passed an ICANN exam, a person pushed me as I'm trying to enter a bus. And I was the one that told him sorry because I was very happy. So on a good day, you push me as I'm trying to enter a bus, I should, retaliate.
Yes.
But because I was so happy, I told him, oh, sorry, and I entered the bus. You understand? So it was not the anger. It's not our anger that leads to our reaction. It is the state we are in that leads to our reaction. Yes. Because how do you explain that somebody pushes you and you are the one telling the person sorry? Do you understand? How? But because that day I was very happy. I had passed an exam. You understand? So that couldn't matter to me anymore. Do you understand? So if you put yourself in a state where your attention is very strong and you can fix your mind on things that make you happy, when people do things to you that should make you sad, there's something you see, because anger does not operate at the same frequency as joy. Joy is a high arousal state. Anger is a low arousal state. Repetition can get you from a low arousal state to a high arousal state. So if you are you are sad and you go and exercise, you're on a treadmill for 1 hour. When you've come out the back from the treadmill, you find out that you are not as angry as you were. Because yes, repetition is one of the things that gets you from a low arousal state to a high arousal state. Now, what I'm trying to say to you is that if you get to a point where you are very, very happy, you are very happy, all those things that will get to you normally, that will offend you, will not offend you anymore. Because you are at a higher plane. You are at a higher place. Your frequency is higher. All those things don't mean anything to you. They don't mean anything to you at all. Pope John Paul was shot. He went to prison to forgive the person.
Wow.
Yes, it's on record. So, but you see, because it was already at a high frequency, so what people will do to you won't matter to you anymore.
So you said a high frequency. So that means it has to be an experience. So you now, why you didn't react when that person pushed you? Because you passed an
I was so happy, yes.
You were so happy,
yes.
So imagine that you didn't pass an ICANN exam.
Yes.
That means you potentially react.
Yes.
So does it mean then are you going to say then it's okay then since if your state then is not happy, what are you going to be used to make it happy so that you don't react regarding anger?
Yes. Joy is a choice. Joy is not an occurrence, it's a responsibility.
That one that happened to you was an occurrence.
It was an occurrence, that's true. But I don't have to. I don't have to wait for that occurrence to be on that frequency. I can generate it.
How do you generate it?
Very good. There are so many things. You see, when you follow the rules of life, you naturally put yourself in a space of joy. For example, whenever I am in a state of quiet, I get a lot of revelation. Revelation keeps me joyful. So I intentionally put myself in a state of quiet so that I'm consistently in a state of revelation and then I'm consistently joyful. Do you understand? Do you understand? That's it. So it's a choice. It's a responsibility. So I can intentionally decide to orchestrate my life such that I will be very joyful at every point in time.
Even when things that happen contrary to
yes,
joyful
are not there. Yes. Yes.
Maybe difficult or something.
No. But you see, it's a matter of understanding.
Mm.
It's a matter of understanding. Once you understand that, let me give you an example. If you understand, the Bible says something concerning Rachel. Genesis 29:31. It says, when the Bible saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. Yeah. When the Bible saw that she was hated, that was when they opened her womb. So the prerequisites for opening her womb was that she was hated on. What that tells me is that when people are hating me for no just cause, heaven is on my side. Now, that knowledge should make me happy when people are hating on me. Can you see why there are some celebrities that no matter how many things you say about them, they will not respond? Because they have an understanding. That understanding takes them to a higher frequency.
Wow.
Do you understand? That understanding takes them to a higher frequency. They will never respond to you. They know that the more you are saying it, the more opportunities are opening up for them. Do you understand? Yes. Yeah. So, you see, it is not what happens to us that makes us sad. It is our understanding that determines how sad we are. So, the same thing with anger. The same thing with anger. The energy I will release when I'm angry is the same energy that it took to invent the email. So, whenever I let out an outburst of anger, if I know that that energy can create my next $1 billion idea, I will ignore that anger or that opportunity to get angry and concentrate or divert that energy towards my next $1 million idea. Do you understand? So it's about perspective.
Like potentially, if you say that, if you, let's say you're working on the ground, someone just gives you a punch,
yes,
undeserved punch,
yes,
so you should just say thank you and just walk away.
See, ask yourself, if I retaliate, the level of retaliation, but I'm saying that there are certain actions that you take that don't add up to you as much as if you took a different action. Let me give you an example. I'm driving on the road and someone drives in a very shabby manner.
Yes, exactly.
I can curse on him. I can say that you are an idiot. I can even say you are a bastard in anger.
In anger, yes.
But I can use that same emotional energy to say that, man, my goals for this year, I'm going to fulfill it. So the energy has been released, but I can divert it towards saying somebody's a bastard or saying that my goals for the year are going to be released. Yes, and so when people do things that to get you angry, they have put you in an advantageous situation. But what are you going to do with that? Are you going to take it as an advantage, or are you going to throw it away?
Also, sometimes these kind of things happen spontaneously. Like it just happened,
yes,
and you didn't even expect when you just give that form of reaction.
Yes.
So how can you talk about how can you be able to work against that spontaneous reaction that
Very
you didn't
good.
even expect? Maybe when you not thought of it, you say, okay, maybe you shouldn't have reacted this way.
Yes.
But that spontaneous reaction of the anger is already out.
Yes, you can train your spontaneity.
Okay.
Yes, over time you can train your spontaneity.
Okay.
Yeah.
How?
And one of the ways is that when you get into hours of prolonged silence, you get into a state of quiet, that even your spontaneity is controlled. Self-control includes controlling your spontaneous actions. It's not just your, in quotes, premeditated or pre-planned actions. So that's why we need to keep on training ourselves and training ourselves and training ourselves. But don't never believe that spontaneity cannot be trained or controlled.
Yes, because why I said this is, even if you remember Moses in the Bible, when Christ was telling him to strike the rock once. But because he was angry, he has this habit of anger. He spontaneously struck the rock twice. And that resulted to what happened to him in the end of it all. So, even though he's man filled with the Holy Spirit, he's God sent him, he's one leading the children of Israel. Does that save him from such kind of spontaneous action? Or does that make you an evil person when such kind of spontaneous actions take place?
The key to that is, because I'm not in, we all know what happened in the story. So judgment is God's prerogative. I'm not God, but we know what happened. We know what God did.
Yes.
But what I'm laying emphasis on right now is that we can train ourselves.
Yes. The training, like mentioned, what are the ways that
you can train yourself?
Yes,
it's based on, it's just doing those same things that you do, but more consistently and on a higher level. So, for example, one of the things that I spoke about, prolonged silence. When you have a feeling and you don't express it with a word, a feeling is a seed. The word is the watering of the seed. Eventually, it brings up a fruit. Any feeling that you do not fertilize with words eventually dies. Yes. So, prolonged silence is a way to train your emotions. Prolonged silence is a way to train your emotions. That's number one. Number two, visualization. If you visualize yourself remaining calm, that's what, there are some athletes that when they are losing a game, they lose it. When those athletes actually go for therapy, some of them go for training. But one of the things that goes on in those trainings is that they are trained to create mental models. They create mental models. And one of the things they do is that they have affirmations that they say over time that I will face some of the most difficult challenges I will face. I will go through some of the most difficult challenges. I may have the worst umpire or referee against me, but I will stay calm. I will stay calm. Now, and I told you, I said a word that you intensely internalize becomes an image. An image that you intensely internalize becomes an experience. Now, because they will do it over and over again, sometimes they will start with 5 minutes a day. They will take it to 5 minutes 3 times a day. After a while, they take it to 30 minutes 8 times a day. Yeah, but they are doing that. Those are affirmations. They are making a mental model, a mental model, a mental model, a mental model. To the point that they are so familiar with it that when it occurs in real life, they have mastery.
So
I told you.
Come from constant,
that's it. See, repetition is manifestation.
So they grow into it.
They grow into it. You grow into it.
Maybe sometimes even if you fail on it, you just learn from it and grow into it. What you were talking about, you mentioned something regarding if you know the rules of life, you will not do something. So what are the rules of life?
Okay, let me give you about just 3 of those rules. The most important rule. To live your best life, you must find what you are willing to die for. To find what you are willing to die for, you must die to pleasure. Okay. To live your best life, you must find what you are willing to die for. The happiest person in life is the man that is ready to die for a thing with the strongest level of intensity. So the beginning of life starts when you are ready to die for something. You are ready to die for a worthy cause.
Interesting.
Yeah.
To live,
hold on. Okay. Let me do it again. To live your best life, you must find what you are willing to die for. That's why you see that people that really attain peak performance, people that really succeed in life, are people that they are so audacious. They are ready to do things that people are running away from. Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest basketballers of all time, he practiced even when his finger was broken. Ariel Sharon, one of the greatest Israelite warriors of all time, he was shot in battle. True story. He was bleeding. He mixed his blood with sand and ate it so that he would not die. And he didn't die. I'm telling you true stories. Hold on. The greatest photographer of all time, Sebastião Salgado, Argentina. Genocide photographer. He's taking photographs in genocide regions. After a while, he begins to ejaculate blood.
Wow.
Because, you know what? Because visualization is powerful. He had seen so much blood that he started ejaculating blood. He goes to the hospital. The doctor runs tests on him. The doctor does not find anything wrong. And the doctor says that, listen, the reason you are ejaculating blood is that you have seen a lot of blood. He says, stop going to those places. And he says, you know what? I will never stop. I'm ready to die for this.
Wow. So does that tie with your initial explanation of action, words, thought? Because what's happened to him now was he has seen, experienced, thoughts.
Yes.
So how come habits and action didn't overcome that experience?
Very good. The action and habits were not as intense as the thoughts. I told you the law of intensity. A stubborn thought will humiliate a gentle or casual habit, even though a habit is stronger than a thought. Do you remember? Can you remember now?
I get it now.
Understand. Never forget the law of intensity. Never forget the law of intensity.
Wow. So intensity can overrule a habit and
yes. If the thought is stubborn, let me tell you something. If a person is very healthy, you have healthy habits, but you have a stubborn thought telling you that you will fall into a disease and die. The stubborn thought can corrupt the healthy habit.
Wow.
If the habit is not equally stubborn, if it is just a gentle habit, the intensity of that thought a stubborn thought will corrupt a casual habit.
It's all about who is more stubborn.
Yes. So that's why I tell you that a healthy goat will kill a baby lion. It's a goat. A goat will kill a lion. A thought can kill a habit. The same way a goat will kill a lion, because the goat is mature. The lion is a baby. Yes.
Okay, continue on the rules of life.
Okay. So, to live your best life, you must find what you are willing to die for. To find what you are willing to die for, you must die to pleasure. Because as pleasure dies, passion comes alive.
Ooh. Say that again. As pleasure dies,
passion comes alive. Yes. Let me give you an example. When I was in university, I had this girlfriend. Her name was Tommy. Beautiful girl. The moment I fell in love with this girl, my passion for my studies just went down. My pleasure for her went up. My passion went down. The moment I eventually broke up, after a while, my passion for my studies went up again. That's when I learned this principle, one of the most important principles of life, that life is a battle between pleasure and passion.
Wow.
Yes.
So how do you break this battle more better?
So what you find that people do, high achievers do, is that they constantly reduce the level of their pleasure. Guardiola, one of the most successful coaches of all time, he tells his players that, listen, while you are a footballer, please just focus on football. After you retire, travel to everywhere, visit as many places as you want, but while you are a footballer, just focus on this. Reduce your pleasure as much as possible. Kobe Bryant, I'm going back to him again. He will get back home latest before 8 o'clock. He wasn't night clubbing anymore. In his peak years, he wasn't doing all that. That's why he had a very healthy and happy family. Yeah. They know the pleasures, they know the difference, they know the things that contribute to pleasures for them, they know the things that contribute to passion, and then they limit the pleasures. The more they limit the pleasures, the more the passion increases.
What do you categorize as pleasure?
A pleasure is a destructive excitement. Anything that excites you destructively. Cocaine is exciting. If you meet anybody who has had an issue with crack cocaine, they'll tell you that it takes you to a level of euphoria that you may never even witness with any other thing. But guess what? It destroys your ability to think. So people who have crack addiction forget what they're about to say. Look at what he did to Majek Fashek. Yeah. So how you know it's a pleasure is what it's doing to your brain. If it's making you a nuisance to the society, it's a pleasure.
What about there might be not a regular one that doesn't make you a nuisance, but
yes, very good. Then that means that most likely they are not pleasure. For example, if I enjoy exercise and exercise helps my brain, even though I'm enjoying it, it's not pleasure, it's passion, because it is helping my overall well-being.
If I enjoy watching TV,
if it helps me to become more innovative, guess what? It is not pleasure, it is passion.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anything that helps you become better,
yes,
is passion.
Passion.
And not pleasure.
Yes.
Okay.
For example, a bottle of stout, alcohol. Alcohol contains ethanol. It weakens the brain. So the brain cells just become weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. Do you understand? That makes it what? It makes it more of a pleasure habit and a passion. You have pleasure friends and passion friends. There are friends that make you think more. There are friends that just kill your creativity.
Now, if you do this example, I've heard people that will say, before I can become active to do this now, I need to take 2 bottles of stout, and they become active for you. So that means it's feeling that the bottle of stout is feeling that passion.
Yes, it's passion. It's passion. Yes.
Okay. That is not like
that's the golden rule. I'm telling you. That's the golden rule.
Anything that makes you come alive to do better.
Yes.
Is a passion.
Yes.
Now, okay, you mentioned one of the rules. It's one of the mentioned.
Yeah.
You say you want to mention like 3. So continue.
Okay. So that's one of the most important ones. So what that means is that when you live a life where you know how to control pleasure, and you can control it, then you now gain mastery. You now gain mastery over life. Every day becomes, you look forward to conquering pain, mastering pain. Challenges are exciting to you. You're not running away from challenges. What people are running away from is what you're even gravitating towards. That's number one. Okay. The second rule is that when things are very good, people are overwhelmed and don't know that things will eventually become bad. When things are bad, people are overwhelmed and don't remember that things will eventually become good. So people's cyclical nature of life is really very porous and very poor. So when there's economic prosperity, people don't save as much because they are overwhelmed. They don't know that recessions will come. When people are in recession, they get overwhelmed. They don't know that they will become an economic. So look at crypto now. People are not investing in crypto. They don't know that it's a cycle. Then when people were in crypto, and when crypto was booming, people didn't know that, listen, it won't happen for life. So you don't just put all your saving. I coached somebody who almost committed suicide. He borrowed money from a bank to invest in Bitcoin. And the price of Bitcoin went down. So you see, when that kind of man who has children, who is married, feels like committing suicide, and he says, life is unfair to me. Life is not unfair. You disobeyed one of the rules of life. Yeah, you disobeyed one of the rules of life.
Okay.
Disobeyed one of the rules of life. Yes. Then I'll share a couple more of these principles with you. Consistency gives birth to intensity, and intensity gives birth to manifestation. Okay. See, consistency does not give you manifestation. It's intensity that gives you manifestation. Let me, whatever you want to manifest. Do you understand? I told you that.
Consistency and intensity are not the same.
They're not the same thing. They're not the same thing. They're not the same thing at all. Let me tell you what consistency is. Have you not met people who have been teaching in schools? Literature teacher has been teaching for 20, 30 years. It's consistent. Have you not met doctors who have been consistent in their doctor in this thing, but they are still on the same level? You can be consistent and be on the same level. You can never be intense and be on the same level. Intensity means that you are growing your consistency. Your consistency is improving. It's not on the same level. You understand? Because if you're on the same level, you're actually retrogressing.
Wow.
Yes. Because technology and nature of life, the nature of life is to advance. To be stagnant is actually to retrogress.
Wow.
Yes. So in life, to advance, you must be advancing, because stagnancy in an advancing world is retrogression.
Wow.
Yes. Stagnancy in an advancing world is retrogression. So consistency doesn't make the difference. It is intensity that makes the difference, which means that if, let me give you the difference between consistency and intensity. On the average, doctors perform 150 operations every year. Surgeons, neurosurgeons in New Jersey. Intensity means that they are doing 150. You are doing 220. Do you understand? Yes. Let me tell you consistency and intensity. Thomas Tuchel, coach of Chelsea, that man understands intensity. And that's why he's succeeding. Very successful. When he's training with any of his teams, Chelsea, Borussia Dortmund, he trains in a smaller pitch. Yes. He says that if people can do a particular thing in a small space, when they get to a bigger space and there's more pressure, they will perform better.
Wow.
Yes. So guess what? Michael Jackson is going to perform a song. Intensity is that Michael Jackson will perform that song with less time, so that, and less resources, so that when he gets to the main stage, it's chicken change for him. So intensity is putting yourself ability to function even with less than is possible. For example, who told you that if you give a rendition at home, when you get to the stage, you're going to give the same rendition? Because at home, there were not 5,000 people watching you. So when you get there, when you add the nervous factor to it, you're going to perform less. So that's why a Michael Jackson will do a take 300 times. That 300 times is intensity. So that if I've done it 300 times, even if I don't feel like doing it on that day, I will do it. That's why some pastors will tell you they can't preach a bad message.
That's true.
Because they have intensively, they have owned it to the point that even on a bad day, you will say that sermon was good. To them, they know the sermon is bad compared to what they can do. But because they have mastered it to the point that even a bad meal, a chef who is a genius will cook a bad meal and you won't know it's a bad meal.
But it's not by the consistency of the person or the preaching that makes it intense.
Very good. Now, the difference between consistency and intensity is time. Your time. For example, If you throw 20 shots in 20 minutes, that's consistency. If you throw 50 shots in 20 minutes, that's intensity.
Okay.
Essentially saying, let me tell you something. The thing we consider intensity is when your neighbor slaps you and army man slaps you. If your neighbor slaps you, do you understand? You will survive. You can easily, your face will be normal. When army man slaps you from Okokobaiko, your life will never remain the same now. You understand? So that's the difference.
Okay. Okay. Now, what is the law of predominant thinking?
Oh, great, awesome, very important law. That law says that you don't get what you think about. You get what you predominantly think about. It's one thing to think about. Maybe, man, I need to get a promotion. It's one other thing to wake up thinking about it. You're thinking about it throughout the day, and then you go to sleep thinking about it. I won't mention the name of a particular MD of a Nigerian bank. Even when he was in school, when he's sleeping, he will wake up and wake his other mates up and tell them that when I grow up, I will buy a bank. So it was, you guys see, that it gets to the point that even when you are sleeping, you wake up in the middle of the night and say that you have taken you. That's the word. Obsession. Obsession. Let me give you one of the rules of life. Very important rule of life. The most important number in the world is 1. The most important number is 1. For example, if you have one desire, you become unlimited. When you have more than one desires, you become limited. Because when you give your energy to one thing, your brain begins to function in the unlimited frequency, in the realm of unlimited possibilities.
Wow.
Yes. So that's why people who are very successful, if you look at their lives, they live singular lives. Now, singular means that the bulk of the things that they do complement each other. Their habits, what they do to relax complements their main purpose in life. Their friends complement their purpose in life. That's that Bill Gates, all his friends were tech gurus. Paul Allen, do you understand? Steve Ballmer. You see, so the environment he had around him, his wife, was an executive, somebody that worked in Microsoft. So everything is adding and fueling it. Their conversations feed their singular purpose. That's what singularity is. Singularity is not just doing one thing, because your body does not even do one thing. What your kidney is doing is not the same thing as what your liver is doing. What your liver is doing is not the same thing as what your pancreas is doing. What your pancreas is doing is not the same thing as what your tendons are doing. Do you understand? Your heart is doing something totally different. But guess what? They are all complementing each other. So it is one. So what I'm saying is, guess what? Let me give you an example. Albert Einstein, Nobel Prize winner, greatest physicist who ever lived. Even his habits, he loved to play the violin. Whenever he played the violin, he said, I used to get ideas in physics. Do you understand?
Wow.
Now, if you play golf, and you are a carpenter, and golf does not help your career as a carpenter, you know what? You are not living a singular life, you are living a plural life. Now, guess what? Power comes in singularity, and then disaster comes in plurality. Do you understand? So, one of the keys to having an amazing life is that you must live a life where everything you do complements. For example, if you are living, you play ice hockey, and you are living in a country like Nigeria where we don't have snow. Do you understand? Your environment alone is not complementing your purpose in life, is competing with your purpose in life.
Okay.
Some people are in relationships that compete with their lives. That's why some people will get married and their careers will just go down. Yeah.
Why? Is it because the partner or the...
Yeah, it's the union. The union is not just... It doesn't complement their purpose or what they've set out to do, and it begins to work against it. And that's where, so in plurality, your attention, listen, you need set your attention to be at a certain height. Let me tell you something. For water to become ice, it needs to get to 32 degrees. If it is 35, it will still remain water. Water to become ice must freeze at 32 degrees. Once it gets to 32, it becomes ice. The same thing for your thoughts to become manifestation, it must get to a certain level of intensity. If it doesn't get to that level, it will not manifest. Now, when people live plural lives, it gets them to that to levels where they still remain water. It never crystallizes into ice because it never stays sufficiently in that fridge. It's in the fridge today, it's out. So you are doing your work today, your frequency is high, you go back to a troubled home, your frequency goes down. Do you understand? So you are not consistently ascending to the level of frequency. Do you understand?
Wow.
So even being a billionaire requires a certain frequency. And until you ascend to that frequency, it doesn't manifest.
But you talked about water, that it can be at 35 and still remain water. How can you be at 32 and freeze, but get 35 and still remain water?
Yes.
It's supposed to.
No. Water only becomes ice at a certain temperature.
Okay.
Yes. So that temperature is 32 degrees. Do you understand? It's the same thing with any other thing. Whether you are making boiling water, when you're going for the water to boil and steam, it must get to a certain temperature. If it is below, it won't steam, it won't boil.
It's above.
But it's above, of course, it will, of course. So, but life is like that. For certain things you want to manifest, you need certain levels of intensity for it.
Okay.
Yes.
So what is about repetition and belief?
Okay. If you repeat a thing, you will believe it. Yes.
Okay. You repeat it.
Yes.
You believe it.
To believe it, repeat it. Anything. If I want to believe that I'm the most ridiculous human being, or if I want to believe that I'm the most amazing human being, all I have to do is repeat it and I'll believe it. And I'll share examples with you. Thomas Edison, he was actually poor in school. His teacher wrote a note to his mother saying that take your child and teach him yourself because he's very dumb. The mother was an illiterate and did not really understand what the teacher wrote. She thought the teacher said that take your child, he's too brilliant, so teach him yourself. So she kept on telling the child that, oh, look, you're too brilliant too. And he eventually became one of the most innovative human beings of all time.
So you say if you repeat it, you believe it.
Yeah, if you repeat
it
a thing.
It comes down to your initial formula. What if the intensity of the thought is above, or the action or the habit is above the other one? Are you still going to believe it?
Now, what happens is that when you really believe a thing, you begin to act. So you begin to go up the hierarchy. You begin to act it. You begin to talk about it. And then when an action becomes consistent, it becomes a habit. You know. Okay. So I can give you some more examples. Jose Mourinho was the coach of FC Porto, and he kept on telling them that I want us to face Manchester United because Manchester United at that time was the best team in the world.
Yes.
When they won, and he wanted them to believe that they could beat Manchester United. He wanted them to believe that it was possible. And so he said, if he starts repeating it, saying it. So the players didn't know why he was saying it. They just thought that he was saying it because he had the technical know-how. But he wanted them to believe. So right from the group stages, he was telling them that, I would like us to face Manchester United. If we face Manchester United, we will beat them. Guess what? When they did the draw, guess who FC Porto was square to face? Was pitched against? Manchester United. And guess what? He said the players were excited. Because they were already primed. He had been repeating it. They were already primed. Eventually, they beat Manchester United and they won the Champions League. Beating Monaco in the final.
So how do you describe intuition and emotional mastery?
Oh, very good. You see, your intuition is a spillover of the intensity of your thoughts and emotions. You see, do you know what intuition is?
Break it, explain it.
Intuition is seeing what is invisible.
Seeing what is invisible.
Yes, what is not obvious to what other people cannot see, you just see it.
You're just having the
intuition. Yes.
Okay.
We call it digested knowledge.
Okay.
Or we call it learning by discerning.
Okay.
So you are discerning. So you are seeing the invisible. That's intuition.
Okay.
There are surgeons that they see cases that they have never been taught in school. What did they use to come out successful in those operations, in those surgeries? Intuition. Yeah, intuition. The same thing with pilots who fly planes, who get to turbulent situations that they don't stand a chance. And they just use some people will call it discretion. But at that point, it's actually your intuition. Do you understand? Or a musician, they play 7 different beats for you. And you just know that the 4th beat is the beat that will make the difference in the market. That's the hit. Do you understand?
Yes.
I can give you more and more examples. So not just I can give you the example of a lawyer that just feels like, oh man, you know what? These are the cases that will set my company apart. Or this is the industry. I mean, this is the direction that we should go into. So many things. People who succeed in life are very intuitive. I'll give you examples. Warren Buffett. He's an investor, successful investor. He has successfully invested in the right companies. He makes more hits than misses. Much more. Part of what he uses, apart from going through their company records, is what? Intuition. Yes, intuition. Because there are certain decisions that you want to make in life that you don't have enough data. You know, you are going to have to use intuition for certain decisions in life if you're going to succeed. I'll share another example with Simon Cowell, one of the most successful men in the entertainment industry. He can see an artist and just know whether the artist will succeed or not. Jay-Z signed Rihanna after hearing her for just 5 minutes. He signed her. Today, she has sold almost 100 million records.
Wow.
Yes. Today, she's a billionaire. Intuition. Apart from that, you hear a voice. Something just tells you that, man, this is going to work. This is not going to work. Do you understand? How do you cultivate your intuition? Very simple. Two things. Your intuition, the more inquisitive you are, the more intuitive you will be. The more inquisitive you are, the more intuitive you'll be. What do I mean? If you look at people who are intuitive in certain areas, they have studied those areas very well. That, you see, an intuition is what we call your cup running over. Listen, your cup is so full that it's running over. You have studied that thing so well that you can intuitively say, this is what will happen, this is what will happen. I'll give you one more example. Relationship expert John Gottman. He says that when he sees a couple, after 5 minutes, he can tell whether the marriage will succeed or not. But you know what? He has studied relationships so well. He has studied so many things. So, in fact, he wrote a book called The Mathematics of Divorce.
Wow.
Yeah. So people who are intuitive, there are 2 levels to it. So I'm still coming back. Just hold on.
Okay.
People who are musically intuitive are musically inquisitive. People who are commercially intuitive are commercially inquisitive. People who are artistically intuitive are artistically inquisitive. People who are politically intuitive are politically inquisitive. So you find that some of the daredevil, some of the genius politicians are people who study politics to a fault. Do you understand? That's why they can intuit it. But that's one dimension. There's another dimension. And I'm going to give you the golden rule to this one. Your intuition is a spillover of the intensity of your thoughts and emotions.
A spillover of the intensity of your thoughts and emotions.
I got to break it down. I'll break it down. For example, if you spend a lot of time thinking about a particular girl, your thoughts and emotions are there. Intuitively, I'm telling you, you can tell what she will like and what she will not like, even without knowing certain things about her. I'm telling you, your intuition is a spillover of the intensity of your thoughts and emotions. So intuition does not just happen adventitiously. No.
That's what I have intuition by a lot of experience.
Of course. You have performed so many surgeries and then intuitively you just do certain things. Yes. Do you understand? Even footballers use intuition. You know, so the people is, I just felt like I should flick it in that way or something like that. No, it's a spillover of the intensity of your efforts in that area.
Now, when it comes to emotion as well, there's what we call depression and disappointment. How can somebody work hard and overcome that state of being depressed or disappointed? Okay,
very good. Now, you see, let's say this book is somebody's mind, and this book is how many pages? Let's say 100 pages. 100-page book. Let's say that depression means that every page is black. Every page is black. I'll use myself as an example. When I felt like committing suicide in 2005, 6, 7, So I battled suicidal thoughts for 2 years. An analogy was shown to me that, okay, your brain is like a bucket full of dirty water. As you begin to pour clean water into the bucket, you flush out the dirty water. After a while, the entire bucket will become clean. So an analogy was given to me as my mind as a bucket of 500 suicide verses. 500 suicide verses.
Okay.
How many?
500.
Very good. So I said to myself, I'm going to memorize 500 verses of the Bible. For each verse of the Bible I memorize, I'm emptying a suicide verse. Do you understand? So, disappointment, first of all, you need to find out what is the cause of the disappointment. What's the cause of the disappointment? If the cause of the disappointment is because, let me give you an example. There's a lady we dealt with during the 8-month strike, academic strike. It was 8 months, right?
Yes.
She wanted to graduate at a certain age. Now, because of the strike, she could not graduate. It was so long. She eventually went into depression. Yes. So, first of all, when you are dealing with anybody, you need to find out the cause of the depression. Then, most of those people, they have the wrong templates of life. They function with the wrong templates of life. You understand? So, they don't understand templates like, every frustration is a $1 billion innovation. Do you understand? So they don't know how to convert crisis into opportunity. Because let me give you an example. When you feel pain, the veins of your brain expand, which is an opportunity for deeper thinking. And that pain I'm talking about, it includes frustration, disappointment, crisis, pain, agony, rejection. Do you understand? And so on and so forth. Guess what? The most painful muscle in your body to exercise are your quadriceps. But guess what? It's the muscle that pumps the most blood to your brain. Yes. The most painful muscle is the most gainful muscle to your brain.
Wow.
So when a child is left in school, out of school, if the child says that pain activates the nerve cells in my brain, pain activates the nerve cells in my brain, pain activates the nerve cells in my brain. When Isaac Newton, you see, when his school shut down, that was when he invented calculus. Do you understand? So you see two people. One, your school shuts down, you go into depression. The other person, his school shuts down, he invents calculus. Which means that lady who is depressed could actually invent something throughout the state of that depression. But it's because of the templates that you have of life, the rules that you function with, the rules you function with, the rules that you function with. That's what makes
those always come to play.
Yes, in the way you react to situations. Do you understand? In your dispositions, in your feelings, in your actions, in your plans, in your long-term goals, and all that.
Okay, what do you mean by the extractive executive?
The extra time executive.
The extra time executive, yes.
Oh, okay, very good. You know, I tell people that the most successful people are extra time executives. Extra time executives.
Okay, what do you mean by extra time executive?
Okay, they are extra mile executives. Extra mile executives. What they do is that, I'll give you an example. Kobe Bryant used to do extra hours of practice. Extra hours of practice. If you see businessmen who succeed more than others, they have extra warehouses. You see, their contingency plan is as strong as their main plan.
Okay.
So, because when crisis happens, that's when great people become even greater. Guess what? When we had a pandemic, Amazon became a wealthier company. Do you understand? Yeah. So, but what determines that is your contingency plan. Your contingency plan. So, if you look at businesses that succeed, look at their contingency plan. Your strength as a person is not your strength in you. Just like saying character is who you are when nobody's watching. So don't tell me about who you are when people were watching you. Who were you when nobody was watching you? Wow. Do you understand? So the extra time executive is somebody that says that, how strong is my bench? Not forget about my first thing. What is my bench like? Do you understand?
That's true.
An extra time executive is somebody that says that my year is not 12 months, it's 6 months. I must achieve all my goals in 6 months. Others are planning based on 12 months. You are planning based on 6 months. So that when things occur, do you understand? You can leapfrog. You have an advantage over the others.
Interesting. Now, what will come to the emotion of love and lust? What differentiates both of them?
Sometimes it's motive. Yes.
So
lust and love do the same thing. Some of them spend, both of them spend spend very well on people that, on their victors or victims.
So why are people describing lust to be the evil one and love be the good one?
Okay. For example, if I'm spending on a girl, so that I can sleep with her and take advantage of her, and I'm spending on a girl because I love her, I want to marry her, I want to make her the best version of herself. Do you understand? I'm doing the same thing, spending, but the motive is different. The outcome, the objective is different. Do you understand?
Is there any evil within the outcomes, or they are just the same thing?
They can never be the same thing. One has an evil or a selfish motive behind it. The other has a selfless motive behind it.
You call it selfish. What if the other person is aware of it, that this one, okay, you just spend it on me because there is no
you want to,
there, so can both of them?
I'm saying that both of them are you want to exploit the person. You want to exploit the person.
Spending.
Yes.
The person.
And you are doing it for your own selfish gain. It is selfish. It is selfish.
Okay.
Yes. It is selfish.
When the person is partaking in it?
Yes. So, for example, I'll give you one example of a woman. Her husband convinced her that to enjoy sex better, they should have sex with someone else. So 3 of them, it was the husband and then the wife and then one other lady. You understand? So you don't care whether it hurts the other person. You don't care what it does to the other party. It's just that I'm having fun, I enjoy it. Do you understand? So what will you call that? Do you call that love?
Now, if you call it selfish, the other person the third partner that was brought into the game, she's aware of it. So she understands everything of it, and maybe she's paid for it. So can that be that the man is selfish? Wouldn't you think the other partner, the other lady to that come in, is also selfish?
Yes, of course.
And so that means it's two-way thing. So that means loss cannot always be detrimental. It means that loss can also be in a positive way.
Never, because if the motive is wrong, the decisions can never be right.
This is the example you give now. Can you say the motive is wrong?
Why not? Okay, one party does not enjoy it, and the other party enjoys it.
For this to even happen in the first place,
one party is dehumanized by it, the other party is exploiting it, and then you say that it's not co-healthy for both parties. So it's just an example. Now, if both of them like it like that, if they revel in it, they
that's
love
exactly
it.
what I'm talking about.
That's a different thing.
Yes,
that's a different thing.
Okay.
That's a different thing. It's a different thing.
Okay, so that's exactly where I'm coming from. When you say someone is lost now or something, and both of them are party to it, can it be a negative loss? That means it can also be on the good side of it. So now coming to envy and jealousy, how do you differentiate both of them, and can there be positive envy or jealousy, or it has to always be on the negative side?
So if we go into the Bible, the words are different. Jealousy is taken from the Greek word anav. Envy is taken from the Greek word prios.
Okay.
Jealousy is taken from the word zealous.
Okay.
That word means zeal. So when you look at jealousy in the Bible, it actually means passion or zeal. Do you understand? Yes, the Greek word is zealous, zeal.
Okay, I see.
Now, that's why the Bible says God is a jealous God. It doesn't say God is an envious God. Jealousy means that I'm passionate for you, I want the best for you, I'm protecting you. A husband will be jealous if somebody is paying attention to his wife, true or false? True. Because he loves her. So that jealousy is actually healthy resentment. Okay. Do you understand? So the difference is that in that context where the Bible puts it, the King James Version, jealousy is positive resentment. Envy is negative resentment. Understand?
Okay, envy can only. How do you think can envy always be? I've heard the people say that when you are envious of someone, you work to try to be like person or better than the person.
That's jealousy, not envy. Envy is where you are jealous of somebody and you kidnap the person and kill the person.
Okay.
Yes. So if it motivates you positively, it's jealousy. If it motivates you negatively, it's envy.
Oh, interesting. So
Yes.
that is the most perfect. Description of
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. If you look at Joseph, Joseph's brother sold him into slavery. It wasn't jealousy, it was envy.
So what about hatred?
Hatred is also negative as well. Also negative, because when you hate people, it's not like you dislike them. You hate them. You are ready to do anything. You're ready to kill. You know. There are politicians who dislike certain certain beliefs of a certain political party, but you never see them speaking ill against. They don't even speak ill. You understand? There are politicians who disagree in terms of values or principles with others, and you even find them defending those other people at certain occasion where occasion demands it. So that's hatred. Means that, you know, I dislike you obsessively and I'm coming after you. I will cheat you. I will manipulate things in your disfavor. If needs be, I will wipe you out and things like that.
Wow. What about admiration?
Admiration.
Yes.
Okay.
It can always be on the positive side when you admire something.
It depends on what you admire, because people admire the wrong things nowadays. People admire people for, all the people that trend a lot now in society, you know. Some of them have no reason to be admired in a sane society. In a sane society. Okay.
So how about when you're talking about hopelessness? When can someone get to a point? Is there anything like a point of being completely hopeless?
Yeah, it's just like you have to look at it like a battery. When a battery is completely flat. Yes. When a battery is 20%, going to 15%, when it's 15%, your phone tells you that, you know what, you have to charge it. When that battery gets to 1%, 0%, that's what you call, we now call it despondency. It's no longer hopelessness. It's now we call despondency.
Yes.
Which means there's no longer hope. The person is totally hopeless.
That is what's coming out of that state.
Very good. Just like when your battery is low, you charge it. To come out of that state, you now have to start applying the hope principle, the principles of hope. Okay. Do you understand? So there are many of those principles that we spoke about.
So when we talk about frustration, what does it? Does frustration propel someone to do something positively, or it propels on the negative angle?
Now, it depends on the individual. It depends on the individual. Some people were frustrated at the naira scarcity, and what did they do? They went and began to vandalize banks.
Yes.
You know, they began to loot, arson, you know, and all that. So frustration depends on the individual. Some people will have go through the same thing and say, okay, how can I cut my spending? And it will lead them to go on a path of financial discipline. Yes, and so people will go through the same thing and say, okay, how can I do trade by barter? Okay, I can't buy with cash. Do you understand? But I sell yams. Auntie Ngozi, she sells this thing. Let me exchange. Or people will come out with creative ways to do things. You know, so it all depends on individual. Somebody is vandalizing, the other is creating a new source of money.
Does it also equal with devastation? Somebody devastated. Do they align with frustration?
Devastation will be like an intense form of frustration.
Yes. Okay.
But even there are people who are devastated who come out of it.
Okay. So that means both of them can be different from each other. So give practical examples of people that you're coaching and things have changed their lives.
Okay. There was a guy that had an issue with public speaking. He was afraid of public speaking. And what we did was very simple. Very, very simple. We just said to him that, listen, who do you admire in public speaking? First thing, you have to look for the picture that you want. You need to find the picture that you want. He said, okay, I like Martin Luther King. We found some Martin Luther King videos on YouTube. And we made him watch those videos every morning for 15 minutes. First thing every morning for 15 minutes. We made him do it for 3 months non-stop, every day. And today he's doing amazingly well in public speaking.
Wow.
Yes, So I told you, a word intensely internalized becomes an image.
That's true.
An image intensely internalized becomes an experience. Do you understand? So that's very, very crucial.
Okay, now when we talk about attention and energy, what do you mean by it?
Attention is everything. Attention is wealth. Attention is health. Attention is intuition. Attention is security.
Okay.
Once you lose your attention, you have lost everything. Yes. Whatever gets your attention has gotten you. It's only a matter of time. Yes.
So that it can also be like focus.
Yes. But guess what? Listen to this. When Delilah got Samson's attention, she had gotten him. It was only a matter of time. She just increased her intensity. That's it.
Oh,
Yeah. Whatever gets your attention has gotten you.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot of us chase wealth. We should be chasing attention.
How?
Very simple. I'll give you an example. You see, a carpenter that gives attention to carpentry will profit more from it than an oil and gas executive that does not give attention to oil and gas. So the real wealth is not what you are doing, it's the attention you are paying to what you are doing.
Wow.
I'll give you an example. Hold on. Don King became the greatest boxing promoter of all time. He came out of jail to promote boxing. At that time, boxers were getting paid $50,000 per fight. He promised Muhammad Ali and George Foreman $5 million per fight.
Wow.
How did he get it? Attention, because he didn't have any money in his pocket. Guess what he did? He went back home and just started thinking, how can I do this? That was his main focus for that season. Focused on only one thing. I told you one is the most important number in life.
That's true. Yes.
Is the number of prosperity. He was just giving attention to it. And guess what? He got an idea. I told you that if water gets to 32 degrees, it will freeze. If your attention gets to a particular level, it will crystallize with an idea. He got an idea. Let me go to Zaire to convince Mobutu Sese Seko to host the game and to come up with the funds. Guess what? He didn't have any money in his pocket. He went to Zaire, spoke to Mobutu Sese Seko that, see, if we bring Muhammad Ali, it can make your country become very popular. Pele made Brazil popular. That game, that match made Zaire very popular as a country. He came up with the money.
Wow.
From no dollar in his pocket, he got $10 million. $10 million. Why? He gave attention to it. If I'm a carpenter and I have just 2 logs of wood, and I give attention to that wood, I give attention to it, I will get more from that wood than a country is getting from oil and gas. That's why there are countries that make more from shoes than other countries that make from oil and gas. It's attention. Attention is the real wealth. A person who gives attention to comedy will make more than somebody who is making planes and selling for a living. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
So now, how do you talk? When you say goals and system, how do you describe it?
You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Goals don't make a difference. It's systems that make the difference.
Goals don't make a difference.
Yeah.
If I have a goal and I'm chasing it,
Man, do you know how many people we coach that have goals and never fulfill their goals? I mean, that's why they come for coaching. Do you know how many countries have Vision 2020, Vision 2040, Vision this, Vision that, and it never sees light of day? Do you know how many countries say that, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, there will be total electricity, there will be 100% electricity in this country? Do you know how many countries said that, in XY number of years, there will be no more carbon emissions, and we'll achieve carbon neutrality? In countries, companies, organizations, you see a lot of goals that never get fulfilled.
So how does system come into it?
Thank you very much. Systems is what makes the difference.
Oh.
Now, a system is a boundary that makes it impossible for that goal not to be fulfilled.
Okay.
Hold up. A goal is a course of action that is time bound. A system is a boundary that makes it impossible for a goal not to be fulfilled.
Wow.
Let me give you let me show you. I'm sure. Break it down for you. Now, I say I have a goal. I want to use my life as a personal example. I was going to finish a particular research last year. As at March, I didn't like the way I was going. March, or not even December, not September. As of March, I didn't like the way I was going. You know what I did? I said, if I spend 3 days consecutively in my house, no going out, no coming in, no phones, no food, no friends, I will go a long way. You know what I did? I called my neighbor. I said, let's sign a document. Lock me up for 3 days. If I come out, I'll give you 500,000 naira. We sign a document. I stay in the place for 3 days. I'm doing work, no doubt, every day. I come out, meet my goal. Bam. We do it the second time because I liked what happened the first time. Do it the second time. Bam. Yes. Everything in there. Yes. You know what? Do it. It's a system. I know that I'm not going to give my neighbor 500,000 naira. So I'm not going to come out. So I'm bound by something. You see, it's boundaries. The problem with human beings is that we hate boundaries.
That's true.
We hate boundaries. Everybody wants to do as he likes. Yes. We hate boundaries.
Yes, that's true.
Let me tell you something. True. The reason why some nations have order and some that don't have order is boundaries. The reason why you can urinate on the street in a corner is because the boundaries allow for it to happen. There are certain places where you cannot do it. They have systems that make it impossible for you to do it.
Wow.
There are systems.
So how can people build it in their personal lives?
Thank you. Very good. There are 3 ways. We call it the price pact, the image pact, or the accountability pact. The price pact.
Okay.
Say that, okay, I'm going to fulfill this goal. If I don't do it, I'll lose also amount of money.
Okay.
Yes.
So you just set aside a part of money.
Then you have, there's a pact. Do you understand? Just like me, it constrained me to do it. Yes. I have a friend. He goes to the gym now because whenever he doesn't go, his gym instructor deducts 50,000 naira.
Okay.
Yes. Price pact. It works. Wow. It works. That's it works.
Okay.
But not for everybody.
Yes.
The other 2 pacts are what you call an image pact and an accountability pact.
Okay.
Do you understand? You see, you don't digest food because you have a digestive goal. You digest food because you have a digestive system. System. Yes. Your body digests food not because there's a goal, but there's a system. You are breathing not because you have a goal to breathe. If not, every human being will still be alive today.
Yes, that's true.
But because people die because the respiratory system packs up. It's systems. Yes. Systems that matter, not goals.
Okay.
Let me tell you something. Which team has a relegation goal? Does any team in the Premiership have a relegation goal?
Not at all.
But would teams get relegated?
Sure.
Why? Because they have relegation systems.
Like automatically it checks.
Thank you. Yes. When your coach is at loggerheads with most of the players, the morale is down. Those are the systems necessary for teams to underperform. Do you understand? When there's no cohesion, do you understand? When some people are trying to outshine others, those are the systems needed for relegation. Do you understand?
You said image pact. So
very good. Let's talk about the image pact. Image pact means you come out and say, this is who I am. This is my image. This is who I am. Do you understand? If I come out and tell you that I'm a fruitarian, do you think I'm going to go into Chicken Republic, ordering a piece of chicken and sitting down to devour the chicken? I've told you I'm a fruitarian. Do you understand? There's an image there. Do you get it? That's a system. The other day, they found some classified documents in Joe Biden's house. Do you understand? It became headline news because you are a president, classified documents cannot be found in your house.
Okay.
You know? So when you put yourself in a certain pedestal, there are certain things that are not required of you. It puts you in a structure, a system whereby you can't do those things. Do you understand? You can't do those things.
Then what about the other part?
It's an accountability part. It means that you have people who hold you accountable. There are people who hold you accountable. For example, a parishioner, a priest, a Catholic priest or a parish pastor or an executive of a company cannot do certain things because if you do them, you will be removed from your position. So you are accountable to certain people. But I'll give you a better example. Grameen Bank is one of the most successful banks in the world, started by Mohammed Yunus, Nobel Prize winner. They have been able to give billions of dollars of loans to so many women. They have been able to rescue a whole nation, Bangladesh, out of poverty. They give collateral-free loans. Free loans to women. No collateral. How? What is the boundary? The boundary is the accountability system. So for you to qualify for a loan, you must belong to a solidarity group of 8 people, 8 women. The 8 women vouch for you. So if the person defaults, it's not just the person, it's 8 people that will suffer it. Okay. Do you understand? So there's a system. There's a system. Do you understand? It's just like, when you belong to a certain family, You can't just marry without telling your parents. Do you understand? There's accountability. So accountability. So 3 things that propel us as human beings. Image, your image. Do you understand? Why can't you sell your votes? Your image. Do you understand? Why is it that celebrities don't take third class? Do you understand? Why is it that celebrities don't take bus? Image. So image pact works.
Okay.
Yes.
That's true.
Accountability works as well. And then a price pack, well, because people, where your treasure is, your heart will be also.
Is there a higher one of all these 3 pacts?
There's what you call the pain pact.
Okay.
If a thing really pains a person, he will avoid it.
That is the highest.
Let me tell you, that's not the highest. The highest is the passion pact. When a person is passionate about a thing, he will do anything. The Bible says love is as powerful as death, and jealousy is as cruel as the grave. Many waters cannot quench love. The greatest pact is your passion pact. If a people are passionate about a thing, nobody can resist an idea whose time has come. So the highest pact is the passion pact, followed by the pain pact. Let me tell you something. If you like sugar, and whenever you take sugar, you begin to vomit, as in you won't be able to sleep. And let me tell you something. Let me give you this example. I have a friend. Her name is Benzo. Beautiful, pretty lady. So pretty lady. She doesn't sleep well. She needs to sleep well. But guess what happened? She started exercising. And the quality of her sleep began to get better. And guess what? Today, she exercises every day, hours. So that, because she knows that when I exercise, I sleep better. So it was the pain of sleeplessness that is making her exercise. Okay. Can you see? So the system that gets her to exercise every day is what? Sleeplessness.
Wow.
Listen, when she sleeps, so when she exercises, the quality of her sleep is enhanced. Do you understand?
Wow. So how does that tie down to countries and like Nigeria now? How does system tie down to
yes, very simple. You know, in a system, you have to say, what is it going to cost me if I don't do this thing? For example, I laugh at people. You have a goal, there's no system bound to it. For example, you don't fulfill your goal and you still travel abroad. And when you travel abroad, you're in business class, and you didn't meet your goal. It's not a goal. You were just fooling yourself. You were just all you had was a decoration. A decoration on paper. It was not a goal. It was not. There's no system. You just wrote some words down. What is it going to cost you? Do you understand? What is it going to cost you? There are football players that said that if this thing doesn't happen, X, Y, Z, I'm retiring. Do you understand? The music stars that said, if I don't sell this number of records, I'm retiring. You know, there were strong consequences. And those that eventually fulfill things, let me tell you something. I don't need to, for a person who loves Arsenal doesn't need a price pact to watch Arsenal.
That's true.
The system propelling him is a passion pact. He will watch Arsenal any day. In fact, before the game starts, 2 hours before, they are talking about the match. You understand?
Yes.
So you have to look for the 5. If you are not propelled by a passion pact, it's going to be a price pact. A pain pact. If it's not a pain pact, it's going to be a price pact. Not a price pact, it's going to be an identity pact. It's not an identity pact, it's going to be an accountability pact. But one of those 5 must work for you if you are a human being who has a legal right to remain on this earth.
Wow. Okay, now let's come to building your unique selling points. How do you do that?
Wow. Every human being needs a unique selling point. The greatest rapper was one of the most metaphorical. Do you understand? Comedians have a unique selling point, and that's why they are relevant. You need a unique selling point. Mr. A cannot sound like everybody. Your meat pie cannot taste like everybody's meat pie. Do you understand? Your events cannot look like everybody's events, and you want to still be relevant. No, everybody needs a unique selling point. And guess what? Your unique selling point is your aroma. When you take potato and sweet potato, they smell the same. But when you take it through fire, plantain does not smell like potato when you fry them. Do they smell the same? No. When you pass yourself through fire of life, your unique selling point comes out. If you see people whose unique point is not selling out, whether he's a photographer, whether he's a shoemaker, whether he's a hairdresser, whether he's an events planner, whether he's an interior decor and does not have a unique selling point, they have not been through the fire of life. And I'll tell you the different fires. When you heat anything, the aroma comes out. When you heat yourself, your unique selling point comes out. I'll take it again. When you heat any ingredients, the aroma comes out. When you heat yourself, your unique selling point comes out. Yes, your unique selling point is your aroma. What's that fire? Intense practice. Intensity is fire. I told you the difference between consistency and intensity. Intensity is your fire. Intensity is your fire. Intense practice. It could be intense thinking. It could be working under intense working conditions that bring out your fire. Whether you are in an office that the work conditions are intense, or you are doing intense practice. When JJ Okocha came out with that his side step, do you understand? He was practicing intensely when the idea came. Intensity brings out your unique selling points.
Wow.
Intensity brings out your unique selling points. Intense hours of work, intense years of labor. It could be weeks or years. It could be days. But the common factor is intensity.
Wow.
Intensity. T-Pain came out with a unique selling point, auto-tune. He listened to about 1,000 records non-stop. He was just listening to find out what is unique. And then he found his unique selling point in auto-tune. Wow. Intensity brings out your unique selling point. So I hope that you key into that.
No, that is very powerful. Now, what can you say about introspection and self-reflection?
They are very necessary. Introspection, going in to think, self-reflection, thinking about a lot of things. A lot of people have discovered their breakthroughs by introspection. People have discovered their breakthroughs in reflection. You know, I mean, look at some of the greatest businessmen. They said that, by the way, come to think of it, I won't mention the name, but a particular businessman who went bankrupt, billionaire, false billionaire, he was bounced back. He was thinking of terminating and crashing out closing down all his businesses. He just felt like, come. In a moment of introspection, he said that, I've been through something similar in the past now. And I bounced back. That I'll bounce back from this one. Let me give you one more. When Germany won the World Cup in Italia 90, Lothar Matthäus was going to take one of the penalties. And he didn't take it. He told Andreas Bremer to take the penalty. And they asked him, why did you ask Bremer to take the penalty? You are the lead penalty taker. And he said, you know what? There's a way I feel whenever I'm going to lose a penalty based on introspection and reflection. And when that penalty was given, I felt that way. And I asked Bremer to take it. Germany eventually won Italia 90.
Wow.
Reflection, let me tell you something, because reflection makes you aware of the past. And the future is a replay of the past. I'm not saying an exact replay of the past, but it's because life is cyclical. If you understand the past very well, you can predict the future. You can predict the future. My friend Alan Littman has been able to predict the American presidents correctly since 1982 because of deep retrospection and reflection. Yeah.
Now, can you talk about the impact of past experiences on our emotions?
Of course. People that are traumatic, they are traumatic because of past experiences on their emotions. I'll give you the example of a woman, a girl who got raped by her lesson teacher. And the lesson teacher beat her after raping her. When she gave birth to a daughter, she never had a lesson teacher for her daughter. Wow. Whenever any man came near her daughter, she shouted. So you can't say that. I mean, let me tell you something. You are a combination of all your experiences. Except experiences that you decide to deliberately overcome. And even overcoming them, you must now begin to internalize a new experience before you manifest it.
Now, if you master your emotions, can it benefit your relationship generally?
Why not? Why not? That you have a husband who never gets angry. That you have a boss who never insults his subordinates. He treats them well, even when they expect him to be angry. Why do you think that people left? Do you know how many people left Donald Trump when he was in office? For Ryan Priebus, Steve Bannon, Omarosa Manigault, Anthony Scaramucci, Sean Spicer, Nikki Haley, John Bolton. Why? When you have somebody who feels like he can never be wrong, everybody's going to feel at the party. I can't work with this. That's me too. I have my self-worth. I can't work under this person.
Wow, interesting. Now, is there anything like righteous anger? Because yes, people talk about you can be angry righteously. Someone did something that is true, that your anger is based on righteous anger. Is there anything like that?
The anger that makes you to come out and vote, is it good or bad?
It's good.
The anger that makes you say that, listen, the way, I grew up in an abusive household. And that anger makes me say that I will never abuse my wife. Is it good or bad? Okay. An anger that makes me say that I've been bankrupt before and will never be bankrupt again. Never. Is it good or bad?
It's good.
Wow, come on. You have righteous anger in many ways, in many expressions.
Now, how do you balance logical thinking in decision making?
Logical thinking. It's very necessary.
So that means how do you balance emotions and logical thinking in
making decisions? Yeah, there has to be a balance. So.
Because most people, when they make decisions based on emotions,
yes,
rather than logic.
Of course.
So how do you bring balance within it? Because sometimes you hear that people, because of that decision that was made out of emotion, usually is most likely a wrong decision.
Yes.
Because it's made out of emotion.
Yes.
So, but when it's coming from a logical reasoning, it's usually right. There's some people, they avoid anything when it comes to making a decision. They talk about that it has to come from a logical reason. If it's not logical, they don't make any decision out of emotion. They don't make decision when they're angry. They don't make decision when they're happy. They don't make decision. They just have to come out when it comes to they are logical in the reasoning before they make that decision. So how do you balance those two equations? Emotions and logic when it comes to making decisions?
You need to be in a very calm state before taking all those decisions. This is why. I've seen people do, when a footballer scores a goal and is happy and he takes his shirt off and gets a red card. Now, he took the decision in a state of what? Happiness, right? Was it a good decision? He took off his shirt and he was given a red card. Is it a good decision? So it's not just, I believe in that sometimes we don't just take wrong decisions when we are sad. We also take wrong decisions when we are very overly excited at times. So I also believe in that balance. Sometimes time can give you that balance. So when you give a decision 2 weeks, sometimes 2 months, 2 weeks for maybe, should I buy that thing, that item on the shelf? 2 months for, okay, should I loan that person that money? Maybe 5 months, should I get married to that person? Things like that.
What's the best way to approach forgiveness and letting go of grudges?
The best way to attempt forgiveness and letting go of grudges. My most preferred formula is what I call emotional distancing and thought replacement. I can give you an example. This is a clear example. A woman was in an abusive relationship with the husband. The husband also spent the money she was supposed to use to send her daughter to school. Do you understand? This woman was battling it. She was in a trauma of bitterness and unforgiveness. Do you understand? Now, what did she do? This is what I call thought replacement. She began to recraft her words of affirmations and in line with thought replacement. Okay. She said, I'm angry that my husband beats me because I appreciate self-love. I'm angry that my husband spent the money for our daughter's tuition because I appreciate education for my daughter. So she now recrafted her affirmations to say that I love my daughter's education. I love my self-worth. I love being respected and appreciated. Do you understand? Do you understand the flow?
Yes.
So she started to focus more on my daughter's education rather than my husband spent the money. You understand? And I told you, back to what I said, which is a strong thing. Words intensely internalized will become images. Images intensely internalized will become experiences.
How does that tie down to forgiving someone for being hurt?
Yeah, because let me tell you something. Listen to this. I was in a hospital one day when I was having my bout with suicide. And I was feeling pain because they was treating me for infectious hepatitis and jaundice. And then I saw a nurse come into the hospital. This nurse fine. Benzik. Jesus. Benzik. When I saw this nurse, I forgot all the pain that was inside me. Benzik. Let me tell you something. There are things there's a way you can fix your mind on certain things that you will forget people who have offended you. Let me tell you something. When you begin to succeed, you won't you will look at those people that mocked you and laugh. You won't even, the power to retaliate won't even be there, because you prefer to use that power more on advancing your business. Do you understand? So it's a battle of relativity.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a battle of relativity. It depends. There is nothing like forgiveness is attention. If you give attention to something else, forgiveness will come easy.
But you hear people talk about, say, I can never forgive.
No, because you have not, you see, for you to be offended, you have to be idle. It's true. If you are engaged, if your brain is really engaged, you will break free from those things. I'm telling you. Wow. Unforgiveness is idleness. Unforgiveness is idleness.
Now, how do you deal with, how can somebody build resilience? What can you describe about building resilience and building it?
See, resilience is attention. Okay. And attention is repetition. The more attentive you are to a thing, the more passionate you are. The more passionate you are, the more resilient you'll be.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What is the overall thing someone can do to improve your life overall when it comes to your emotions?
Improving your life overall when it comes to your emotions is being deliberate. I'm a very strong on singularity. Pick 2 emotions that you can foster and foster them effortlessly, and you have an amazing life. See, happiness is a skill. You remember what Richard Bandler said, the founder of neuro-linguistic programming? He said, happiness is like riding a bicycle. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. Yeah. So I believe in emotional engineering. I believe that you can engineer and engender emotions. And once you understand the principles on how it works, that it works like a machine, it works like a skill, it works like something you're trying to build, a plant you're trying to cultivate, it becomes effortless after a while.
Wow. What are emotional triggers and how do you approach dealing with them?
There are so many. Some people, an emotional trigger is something as simple as they're on a period. Once some women go on their period, they become very irritable. An emotional trigger is coming back home to a house that has no light. An emotional trigger is having a bad day at work. There are so many things that trigger us emotionally.
Sure.
Yes.
How do you overcome it?
Okay, simple. It's back to everything we've spoken about, emotional maturity. For example, if I'm triggered by painful periods, if I change my diet, I can overcome painful periods just by changing my diet. Do you understand? If it's the fact that I had a bad day at work, I need to now get to the point that I know how to convert frustration to innovation. Do you understand? Understanding how the brain converts it to innovation. So what are you saying? What are you saying when those things happen? Okay. Do you understand? Because your words are most powerful at vexation points. Yes.
So can you discuss the role of positive psychology when it comes to your emotions? What is positive psychology and how does it affect your emotions? Are they related with each other or they are different from each other? Positive psychology and emotions.
You can't practice psychology or anything that has to do with the mind without engaging some form of the emotions. Because if you think about a thing, you eventually feel it. Yes. You think about a thing, you eventually feel it. So you can't separate ultimately. There are 2 different things. Your emotions are not the same thing as your thinking or your psychology, but they work hand in hand with each other. So if you practice positive psychology, if you say, for example, you're going to look at a problem as a challenge, or you're going to look at a frustration as a billion-dollar innovation. Yes. Eventually, if you internalize it sufficiently, you're going to feel like that. You're going to feel like, oh, this is it.
Does anxiety help someone or mix or work against someone? What can you say about being anxious or when you're anxious about anything or something?
Yes, anxiety is not the most helpful emotion. This is what happens when you are anxious. You release some hormones. Adrenaline goes up. When adrenaline goes up, especially when it leads to excess cortisol into the brain, it begins to weaken your brain cells. Look at when a student is taking an exam and is anxious, 5 minutes to go, anxious. A lot of mistakes happen in anxiety moments. Yes. In those anxious moments, a lot of mistakes happen. Yes. Whether you're a footballer and in the moments of anxiety, you throw the ball over the net, or you are a musician and you make a mistake in those moments of anxiety. But it's not the anxiety is your perception and how you have learned to manage yourself during the anxiety. Because there are some players that even in those anxious moments, that's when they play their best. You understand? Yes.
That's what I'm trying to
Yes.
say. Can
So-
someone be anxious and then do better?
Yes, if you have trained yourself to that level. That's why all these daily practices of visualization, meditation are very crucial. Attention, enforcement is very, very better. And then it's not just your daily habits, your lifestyle habits. Am I going to focus on a few things? Those who have a more fulfilled life have few things that they focus on. They are not easily, they don't live plural lives. Do you understand? So,
Wow, interesting. It's very interesting. Now, to round it up, what are the final things you think you can say regarding emotions generally? What are your last words that you have to say regarding emotions?
okay. I would like to talk about the impact of pain and emotions. Let me give you an example. When you get to a point in your life where you are going through a bad situation, that bad situation can blinding you, and you say, okay, I'm jumping from XYZ to ABC, and you're not even sure whether ABC is better than XYZ.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So I just want us to be a bit careful and cautious. For example, when people were on Nigeria was under Jonathan,
Yes,
we just felt like anything but Jonathan would be better.
that's true.
So we went from Jonathan to Buhari. Do you understand? So we need to be careful because the discomfort does certain things to the brain, that it doesn't also allow you to think very clearly at times. Yes. Then the second thing I want to talk about is that it's a connection between ambition and delusion.
Ambition.
Yes. So somebody with political ambition will also ultimately have political delusion. Yes. The part of your brain that stimulates ambition also stimulates delusion. So you see yourself, when you have 60% popularity, in your mind, it feels like 80% popularity. It's not 80%, but that's what you see as 80%. It's possible to listen to a message or listen to a rendition. And the way you felt the first time you listened to it was not the same way you felt the second or the third time. When you give a lot of things time, or what we call emotional distancing, you are able to assess very well a lot of things. So what I advise people to do is that they should have lifestyle habits that aid for emotional mastery. Lifestyle habits that aid for emotional mastery.
You want to listen to the habit or include all
Yes.
what you have been talking about? Now, something just came to my mind now. What would you describe this kind of emotion whereby they said you see someone that maybe is an abusive relationship or at a particular kind of scenario or surrounding that has been oppressive or all of that, but rather than the person living it, the person is still insistent in it and doesn't even want any talk contrary to it. The person wants to remain in it. Say, this is what I want. This is where I want to remain. So someone will tell you that, like a case of that woman, they said she died because her husband was beating her. Osinachi, God bless you. She knew her husband was beating her. Yeah. She knew that whatever did happen, this and all of that. But she said, no, this is what I want. So there are some people that they say they get to a point. Like I used to hear this lady talk about the fact that her boyfriend used to slap her all the time. I got to a point that if he doesn't slap her, she's not happy. She enjoys when he slaps her. Yeah. So she become comfortable with it, and that became her way of dealing with it. And there is no way you can tell her about it. What kind of emotion is that? Or is it on the positive side, or can it be broken, or what will happen for someone to get to that kind of state?
Yeah, she had become very tolerant of it. So she had now begin to build a level of tolerance that now grew into what you call an affinity for it.
Like it doesn't become a problem for her.
No. Yeah, she now enjoys it. Yeah. And you see, that ultimately has to do with habits are one thing, but your perception is another thing. So your perception will ultimately determine how a habit would manifest in your life, or how it would the trajectory that it will take. So let me give you an example. When you tell somebody that exercise can be very painful, whether you like it or not, running a marathon is not a joke. But there are people who run marathons with joy. They look forward to it, they practice for it, they train for it and all that. There's what is called learned helplessness. But sometimes I don't even want to look at it from the angle of learned helplessness. With any habit, there are people who run a marathon. A marathon can be very gruesome. It can be grueling. The first few days after a marathon, you are not yourself. Your body needs time to recuperate. And you see people still gear up for the next marathon and all that. The same thing with pregnancy. Some people go through very painful pregnancies, tumultuous pregnancies, and they still want to get pregnant again. Now, first of all, is your cognition, is your perspective. What do you see? Do you like it? Do you want it? When you want a thing, your entire being begins to look for ways to make it happen. Yes. So once, first of all, if you desire it, the next thing is, what are the principles you are putting in place to get it? If you work with the right principles and you have the right intensity or frequency, then it will come to pass. So if a woman is getting abused and is not saying no to it, people were in slavery for years and years. Do you understand? They were being raped and they were in slavery. But as long as they said, we can't continue like this, they eventually came out. Do you understand? So, but if they did not want to, slavery would still be preponderant today. So the first thing is that there must be a cognition and perspective. This is where you say there's conviction that I don't want this. So for people like that who get to that level of learned helplessness, if you look down, they have not come to a state where they say, enough is enough, I'm tired of this, I'm not doing this anymore. They have come to a state of learned helplessness, and repetition is energy. Repetition is emotion. Because they have repeated it over time, they have now fallen in love with it. Yes, and remember what I said in the beginning, repetition is emotion. Repetition is emotion. Repetition is not just energy, it's not just attention. Repetition is also emotion. And I told you, repetition is belief. If you repeat it, you will believe it. If you repeat a thing, you may eventually believe in that thing.
Do you think that is what leads to, what do you think might be the major cause of divorce? Is it lack of management of emotions, or how?
There are many things. There are many factors that lead to divorce. With the kind of research that has been done in the last 10 years on divorce, you look at so many factors. First of all, it's the character of both parties. First of all, character of both parties. Number two, you look at the purpose of those parties, their life purpose, their life mission. Also, then even environment, culture, these things shape things. Because if you look at 50 years ago, women had minimized roles, so there was less friction between the man and the woman. But 50 years later, the role of a woman is not, and I'm not saying that women should not have larger ambitions or goals, or that society should not change where women evolve and become more relevant. But I'm just saying that in a place where a lot of things begin to suffer a lot of disalignments, then of course, and all that, So, but it's not just that. Even things like finances and things and financial landscape of society that we live in today. Our society is more materialistic. So if a woman does not get as much as she wants compared to 50 years ago, it's going to make her cast her in a certain light by society. If children don't go to a certain kind of school, or people don't enjoy a certain kind of life, So all those things put together has contributed to that predicament of divorce that we have today. But it's not just that. Even cultures add to that. Cultures add to that. Our cultural dilution has also added to that. So 50 years ago, things that were taboos are now normal.
That's what I'm trying to bring up.
So
it looked like those days.
Yes. But it's like I said, it's a combination of so many factors. So many factors.
Things that are taboo.
Yes. The society has changed. Society has changed. Roles have changed. In nowadays, a woman is expected to even contribute to the expenses of some families, So the man is not just working and providing. The woman is providing as well, So the women don't have as much energy to love their husbands, because part of that energy, they are focusing on work, generating money. They also have to. So that's why the women don't have enough energy. Parenting is dying because there's less energy for parenting now. women have to do more things. So the energy that they would have given to parenting is going towards building a business, building a brand, becoming. Yes. I told you that life is about energy and attention. Yes. So whenever a particular thing is suffering, it's because the energy deposit in that area is depleted. Life is energy.
So we can go back to the time of old. Do you think the time marriage ways of old mixing is much better than
I'm not saying that that's the only reason, and I'm not advocating that women should not work or that women should not that women should just be all women should be housewives. No, I'm saying that there are different factors that have led to challenges in homes and parenting, and it's not just marriages that have suffered. Parenting has suffered. Not just parenting that has suffered. Christianity and values have suffered. Morality has suffered.
Yes.
The intense pressure has not just affected marriages alone. It has affected morality. It has affected values. It has affected even the environment is suffering today.
Wow.
Yes. Because people are using more cosmetic, for example, because people are consuming more energy, it's affecting even the climate, the environment, the planet. Do you understand? So all these factors, so you can't just say that we can say, okay, these are the two main factors leading to divorce. Number one, people are not groomed enough well for marriage. The character is not there. They don't understand the values. They don't understand the principles on how marriage works. So there's a lot of marital illiteracy. Yeah. So that's the number one factor. And tied to that would also be, the fact that purpose. A lot of people their purposes and visions are not aligned. So after a while, the cracks begin to show. Especially when people want to chase their purpose, and no one person is not willing to lay down their purpose for the marriage.
Interesting. Wow, these are all powerful. Woo! This is quite interesting. God bless you very well for this you have done today. So finally, share with people how they can be able to reach out to you in case people want to reach out to you for any form of coaching and all of that.
Oh well, you can reach out to me on Instagram. Send me a DM. My Instagram handle is Olusanya Adekanmi. And you can go to my corporate website, emplnigeria.com, www.emplnigeria.com. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. Thank you so much once again.
You're welcome.
This is highly impactful, and it's been quite long. I'm sure it's much longer than the first one, but I believe it's quite insightful and interesting. Thank you very much. So that's it, guys, with Mr. Adekanmi Olusanya. I'm sure you have benefited a lot in this particular episode. We covered a whole lot regarding mastering your emotions. So I'm sure this will help you a great deal when it comes to mastering your emotions. So do remember to like this video and also subscribe to the channel if it's your first time of coming to the channel. And don't forget to share this video with 1 or 2 persons and turn on the post notification so you're one of the first to get notified each time we upload new videos. I do my best to talk on this channel on business, mindset, self-development, entrepreneurship, and also do interviews like this time to time. So this channel, I do my best to make sure I give you impact that will help you, your life in general, and your future. And this is definitely one of them. So thanks once again. My name is Benson, and I'm a creative entrepreneur. I'll see you again next time. Cheers.